In total, this harem is as much as a way to be original, as well as not cracking Issei with its harem, although not totally. For example, Ravel, that will be a heroine, will not be interested in Issei as well as some other girls, but the difference is that the undeniable ones such as Rias, Aquino, Kaneko, Asia, Zenobia, Irina, and some other that this in the core academy. In total, to clarify in advance, I will comment that because I will not fully follow the fee, then I will have to create your own sagas, so I will have to use characters from other series so that the sagas can work. The series used are as follows: Danger Rampa, Tsukiheim, and Fate Stay Night. I repeat them and notify them in advance. Only the appearance, personality, more or less altered history, power, and such characters will be used, not the sagas of the series, so this would not be a multi-crossover, such as with Dangan Rampa. Justin, I have only seen some videos and read wiki, so if someone does not know who Nagito Kamita is, well, and there is no need to find out all the series, but it will not be my creation but a basis of a character of another series already made, because I don't believe that Gary Stu bored. Come to me, Phoenix. When a person is about to die, it is normal to feel fear. It is unknown to be dead, nobody knows exactly what happens when they are dead, and even the souls that arrive at Hades are not really dead. Only their weapons are locked in that place, and even the same happens when you reach heaven, but if the gods die, then where they go? That means that there is a place beyond where you really get when one is dead. And that scares because the unknown scares us. The darkness scares us because we cannot what is in it, and those scare us. We are all afraid at some point in our existence, and in death he always feels fear for any reason. But there was something that alone can achieve at the edge of what we feel or believe is our death. Alone, what they are really powerful feel fear not by themselves but for things outside of them, because those who are not afraid of their death is because they accept it and are able to go to it with a naturalness that few have. But they are afraid for others. When he died, he is afraid of his friends, for relatives, for the mistakes he made, for what he could never do, and for the pain they were going to cause with his death. The undeniable fear that knows that when he died he caused a lot of things. Pain greater than her, and was afraid for it. Sometimes that desire not to have that fear, of doing something against that fear, is when miracles you happen, and alone the courageous deserves them, but the luck is 1,000,000 to 1 for which almost no one achieves what it is to survive in death, but sometimes they happened. Only what they accepted death have that little chance. Harry Potter was not afraid of death. He accepted it. He feared for his friends. They were still deadly in the chamber of death, and his death would cause them a pain that they wanted to experience. They could be vulnerable and did not want them to die so soon in a furtive attack. He feared for his best friends, his other friends who had followed him to a very noticeable trap, and those of the Order of the Phoenix who had come to his aid. He feared for them, but he would not hesitate his decision again because he had won. He still held Voldemort, that he shouted with everything he could as they sailed in the depths of the Vale of Death. He felt an intense pain in his being, and more specifically in his front, where that damn scar that showed the sacrifice that he had to pay so that this miserable losing 15 years ago, and now he felt as if something was released from his race scar, as if he said he was finally arrested to Voldemort. And he was so happy because today, except many lives, and he did not mind having given his life, he was never the most positive person and the most lover of life for years. Since he was a child he had already accepted death, and in a life with his uncles ended up accepting that perhaps it is in death that he found happiness with his parents. He was not afraid of death. I accepted it. And that is power. The desire was movement, the movement was the will was the strength, the force was power, and the power was everything. When Voldemort had appeared in the atrium of the Harry Ministry, instead of feeling fear for the presence of his parents' murderer, he felt an unparalleled righteous anger. He knew that compared to Voldemort was very weak. He was barely a child at the end of everything. Facing Voldemort was a suicide, but at that time Harry was not in his Bacchus. He lost Sirius in front of his eyes, fighting against murderous deadly, and his enemy Loveday was face his boasting as if nothing while talking to Dumbledore while he was there like a weakest cockroach, and felt that the power came to him. I wanted to defeat Voldemort. I wanted to destroy it. I wanted to beat him. I wanted justice. He wanted victory, and with the intention, with the willpower, with the desire, with the action comes power, and Harry attacko with everything to his most hated enemy. The clash was brutal, the surprise attack and the magical energy in the amount of Harry hit Voldemort that although I did not kill him where the entrance of the Chamber of Death was, and Harry with a force that only those who destroy his body to obtain the maximum power continued in Choco combat. And Harry won. Unlike Voldemort Harry, he had the power of justice of the fallen and the love for his friends. I would die 1,000 times for them, and that Voldemort can never understand even knowing. It was such a power that Harry achieved winning against the Dark Wizard. The power that he did not know. Voldemort attempted at everything to stop Harry, but his defeat was imminent. His Horcrux would not help. Because Harry and Voldemort entered the kingdom of death, but not any kingdom. This was the true kingdom of death outside of space and time, because like the space and time of reality itself in all alternative universes, death is absolute. There ended the souls that in other universes could not contain, where those who should not die ended, where death is really absolute. The true world of death. And Death, Grimpeace and other names, was not very happy with Tom Riddle, and more than he broke his own soul. Such a great sin. For immortality he enraged the absolute force, so I took the soul that inhabited the homunculus body that Voldemort used at that time and the one that was locked in the child's scar, and using them as strings to start end the soul of Tom Riddle, finally causing death. Death itself was going to take the child too. She didn't even know where. When I approached the child, I detected a materialized piece of one of the many minor versions of herself in the multiverse, and this gave a protection against death to the boy, a layer? Rare something really, because the child was different, because he accepted death as something normal and hugged him without any fear, something strange in truth, but that has happened many times before. With the mantle he carried and his acceptance to death, perhaps he had fulfilled his desire and would have sent him with his parents and godparents, but the issue was still there. I didn't know where to send it, because the boy was still alive. The layer gave him protection, but that would not hesitate forever. Little by little the mantle that protected him was undue. As if it were a safe before them, they went out for themselves. Death frowned. Those forces that already died were somehow to get the rebirth. It would be expected to be angry with that, but the rebirth is something that has happened millions of times, and that will continue to happen throughout the continuation of the existence, also eventually end up dying and returning to their kingdom, and as time here it is not normal then in a flicker. Why the supernatural forces and beings of a specific universe clung to that child. He approached again and touched the human this time to find out what was happening. The answer intrigues you a little. Against strength. This child was destined to do great things. There was another primary force along with the domain of time and space that responded with the name of Aleia, the promoter and strength of the will of the human race that existed outside of space/time as death used in each of the universes an event known as force, which consisted of the alteration of the event where a champion is chosen, and this champion was given an opportunity to become a hero that ended in a conflict that in that world or in many others would cause the destruction of humanity. There were many examples of these cases of the force. The movements that gave the birth of the Supreme King Gilgamesh that would become the first hero of history, the culmination of the birth of Jesus Christ that would bring serenity to the darkness of humanity after his death, the coronation as king of the legendary Arthur Pendragon, that his invention of the round table would be it can become important, the invention of Albert Einstein and Leo Szilard together with other atomic bomb scientists, who, although it is a complete horror, is a symbolic weapon that would stop humanity to go to world war for more than 500 years or the largest of this in different worlds in alternative realities. That is against strength. Of course, it is not infallible since you can fail in it. An example of such was Juana de Arco, that he died at the end without fully fulfilling his mission of stopping the 100 years. The child was one of the many subjects of the Force, but this time things became in a way that neither the consciousness of humanity could foresee. The child's fate was to defeat Tom Riddle, and did it, but the time and the fact that he was going to die when he should not and even escape from the jurisdictions of his destiny was very wrong. The child will be a hero even if he does not want it, but he already fulfilled his role. What is left? Oh, he already knew it was. The child would gain the most desired power of all realities. The free will. An existence like hers that the only thing that has been able to achieve is to obtain a female gender, the only thing that will do even. Nor does it have a limit. Its entire existence is, it will be and always be the death, the management of souls and rest in their kingdom, but beyond it, ever, never, you can never do another. It is an existence without free will. The boy, without knowing it, fulfilled his homework, and now he was free to do what he wanted. Fate could do nothing with him. His existence was now really belonged to him. All existing beings have their tasks in the whole of everything. Everyone has a destiny to fulfill, but this human, as many others, reached free will, the greatest power. And seeing him slowly move in his kingdom while supernatural forces surrounded him by separating him from death thanks to the mantle that death was with himself, he decided to simply take him out of his world, and that he continued with his life since in the end he fights for it. It was not worth it. Eventually he returned in time. He did not have so much power there. A second here, he could spend 1,000 years in the land of the living. Thus, with a thought, a gap opened to a universe that shared with the existences that hid with the child, who have their rebirths, did not care. Death would come naturally, and death is patient but undeniable, so I do not bother. Already feeling the child leave his kingdom, he began to walk around his kingdom, receiving the new souls and thought for a second, only a second, who was jealous of that mortal. The power of free will, as I would like to have that, elsewhere, land of relatives, in a river surrounded by trees and a beautiful waterfall that increased the tranquility of the place. It was promptly assaulted by a great powerful energy explosion, so that it was later condemned in a kind of crack in reality where a 15-year-old young man of semi-naked black hair came out being covered by the vestige of a pants and a purple layer that was partly invisible to which it was slowly. Nothing. Then an explosion of energy arose and in a burst a large number of spheres of energies of different colors were shot in the air. Some of them, if they were carefully had things were common. Some were battle's gloves that expelled an aroma of dragon, mystical swords that mowed majesty, other divine weapons or formations that betrayed incredible power before leaving the place to be lost in different world, the underworld, the celestial, and others. The boy who had fallen to the river, who luckily ended up floating in the water, had 4 spheres surrounding him which had a small figurine in his center. One of them was a white tiger, the other was a greenish torture, the other was a red bird, and the last blue dragon. Thus, with a flickering, the red bird entered the boy's body, and this shined strongly for one of the pockets still stable from the young man's pants, a slightly broken bright wand for a while before a figure similar to a phoenix shone before it exploded in fire, even under the water, before entering the body of the young man, leaving for a second the tattoo of a phoenix disappear. The other 3 spheres turned to some moments before entering the child's body, only instead of shining the boy only trembled. There was no problem since those 3 figures only used the child as a cover before they found their true and new holders. Because they were brothers and a set that would never separate. Now that they were alive again, once again they would leave a mark on the world. Even when the fire holder was in a coma after having passed from the kingdom of death, they felt that what they would come would be glorious. They were not wrong in the least. Those would ensure the 4 sacred beasts. Thus partially, he continued his way in the river until I take a great distance, and for pure luck to take a path until he lost in the distance, avoiding in how a Juka Beelzebub appeared next to a demon group on a teleporting seal after his equipment detected a large anomaly and then ended up finding anything. Frustrated, he would go with his team of researchers, but it would be time before he knew more or less that happened in that place. A couple of hours later, a little kilometers away from that point, Ravel Phoenix had his guilty tastes. Being a demon of one of the prestigious house of the 72 pillars forced him to be a lady suitable at every moment, but everyone in the background knew that in a way they all had their ways to free the tensions and had their hobbies. His brother Ravel loved being with his wife and son. His brother Riser went out to boast with his nobility, and Ravel had his own leisure, and that was to visit a special area in the family's forest. That was a private place of the Phoenix house, like a summer house, which his family used occasionally to spend time in family, or when some of them needed time for them, that house next to a whole select of servants, and occasionally with its mother or father or Riser. She liked to give brief walks around the forest around the house, and since that area was made especially by Zentoji so that family members did not approach the Ravel area, enjoyed their time to swim in the river near the Phoenix house in that place. It was a really guilty taste, but it was not so serious. Not as her brother. She could love and admire Riser because of her strength and intelligence in her game ratings, with only having 10 pieces in her nobility, and without offending most of her members were not so strong, but it was the intelligence of her brother who won her respect and admiration. But even with everything, she had to admit that the things that were a bit ideal. Mother, I still couldn't see Ubeluna after the incident with the rubber duck. Ugh, remembering him gave him bad chills. What is that? Ravel asked as he took his feet out of the water and got up from the great stone from which he was resting, seeing the landscape, taking note of something, or someone else specifically, if he saw well float in the river moving towards his position. She looked at the head and projects of fires to approach cautiously, since who knows what things are hidden in the forest, and I observed that it was a pale-skinned boy and frowned a little. Who was that child? She flew following her trail before the current left her in the sand, from which she takes the way to her summer house, and Ravel take note of her, waiting for anything to appear, and a little satisfied with great caution landed next to the boy and then observe him carefully. He thought for a moment that he was also handsome. That scar on his forehead was a bit curiosity, but she wondered who for what. His hand puts her hand in the boy's chest, blushing a little because it was the first time touching a boy without being a relative, to discover for her shock that, is it a human? What does a human of the whole thing here? Because you called it little chick. So at that moment Ravel was no longer on the edge of the river. I was no longer with that unconscious child, was no longer in the family forest. She was in the dark, being seen from the heights by the eyes of a being who scared the young demon and felt so small and insignificant to what he saw. She believed that she was a true phoenix, that her noble and mystical lineage made her one of the most powerful clans, which were invincible as the mystical and appraise. I was wrong, so wrong, because what he saw was really a phoenix, and he looked at him with burning red eyes full of primal power that could be compared to the dragon's but more, and she kept still and quiet when the mystical being stared at him with authority. Listen to me, small chick, you would take my bearer, you will take care of him and you will guide him in this world. He is free of destiny, but he is a hero, a warrior and a revolutionary in his simplest presence. Problems and battles will follow him wherever, and only you, who has part of my powers, has the duty and fortune of guiding such future warrior in this new world. Guide it and promise you that he will never leave you. Such is his spirit and moral. Guide him and the rewards will be glorious. He trusted that you fulfill this, little chick. I know you will do the right thing. Have you heard? Yes. Yes, I will do it. I will do it. Before, such a presence full of power only had to accept, but there was something in it. A feeling of duty, desire, and the will to want to fulfill that request to pass through his being, and his instincts told him that accepting such a task was the true path. The being looked at him for a few seconds before he nodded, and in a blink she returned to her previous state, taking note that she was still in the chest of the young man, a Negro, and she blinks and then growled a little to get the disorder in her mind, but after a few minutes she calms down and observed the human who had found and used a basic spell of recognition to know what her current state was. But at least I must see how he is. Father has always said that I must show me how superior I am, and if I worry about a human, then that helps. Right? Similarly, here we go. She frowned. The boy was very tired, so much that he was in a coma. It is as if he had given an effort that was far beyond his limitations. He would not wake up in a long time, maybe a few months could wake up, but if he became a demon through an evil pieces, then he could wake up in a few days, but in his home, the only nobility, he would definitely not accept a man in his nobility. So the most logical option was her mother. She had a complete set of evil pieces, but the truth, her mother only had those pieces for. What did her mother have those pieces? His mother and father were very old to be interested in the raiding games, and they were concentrating on the economic income of the Phoenix house. She could leave her mother to make this boy a demon under her command, but the truth will only have him as a personal servant, and with that immense being that he had inside, it was a real waste. Then a crazy idea entered her head, and if she turned her into her demon? She was a demon of pure blood, so requesting a set of evil pieces was very reasonable. She was 14 years old, she would be 15 in 2 months, so she could ask for her pieces. The reason for why she had not done it before is that she wanted to mature as a demon, or that she did not want to have the pressure of being a king also was nothing. She was the third daughter of the Phoenix. She would end up getting married with another demon of pure blood, and already to bother if her destiny was sealed? He is free of destiny, but he is a hero, a warrior and a revolutionary in his simplest presence. Problems and battles will follow him wherever, and only you, who has part of my powers, has the duty and fortune of guiding such a future guerrero in this new world. Guide it and promise you that he will never leave you. Such is his spirit and moral. Guide him and the rewards will be glorious. Will be possible? It will be possible that this boy is the hero that I always wanted? She then remembered the moments of Harry wouldn't know what his future would be. He even thought he was dead, but that would later exchange. Ravel would not know what changes he had made, but much later. No one would expect the events that would take steps later, and on that day in the human, in the underworld, and in other supernatural areas, stars and spheres of energies flew before landing in some places in specific, or choosing new carriers or avatars, such as the Vatican, an abandoned church in London, in a camp in the United States, and even in the Kuo school, and all those events will gradually give way to the change of the supernatural world. Nobody will wait, and perhaps nobody will know exactly that it happened on that day, but we are sure that Harry Potter's life has changed forever. Continue. So here, I am very excited in this. The original idea was that Amiya Shiro of Fate's Day Night ended with Ravel. The difference of this with the FIC axe is that Shiro has the first true magic, which allows you to create anything. He decides to use it to create a sacred gear base with unlimited blade works inside, and then using a copy of an evil piece and reliving Cyberus, the Skyblade dragon that exists, or Dracona in reality, although Dracona is more the title to a female dragon. In total, Shiro would have his same power, but he would have a balance break and such. At the beginning, I thought that Harry had a sacred gear dragon type, but I thought it should be original, and then I found to the 4 sacred beasts, They appeared in Digimon and are based on true mythological figures. In total, in this FIC, by Harry's induction from the real, they will appear in this FIC: Eternal Firehell, Ultimate Drain, Glory Faker, Grand Fury, Pandora Hearts, Great Impact, Kavacha and Kundala, Betrayal Twins Draco, 9 Lives, Great Rystrad, Holy Slayer, Deathtime Scythe, Creation Price, Diablo Blood, Unlock Juggernaut, Heaven Bull Holy Blade, Gate of Babylon, Alucard Reborn and Enkidu Prime. Some are Longinus, others are not but are powerful. In addition, there will be the 4 Sacred Gear protagonists of this FIC. Oh, if someone wonders how Harry survived through the Kingdom of Death and ending in another universe, because it was because of the invisibility layer for those who did not understand. Similarly, the current harem is made up of Ravel, Isabella, Carlamine, Shualon, Sikvera Ages, Benia, Valerie Teeps, Kyom Abe and Ika Kiryu. Although 4 of these will appear already a lot later, but good. If possible, you could add to a girl from another series that will appear in the FIC, but I doubt it. I immediately clarify that this happens a year and a few months before canon. Therefore it is explained because Riser lacks 4 pieces, including his sister and the age of Ravel and such. In the same way, I hope that this FIC has been of your liking. I wish everyone and leave comment. In the next chapter we will have Harry knowing that now he is a demon, who is in 2014 in another universe. Ravel's mother puts him to study, and in the human world Calawarner is in a death battle who will save her. You just have to find out. Toaneo 07. Harry Potter does not belong to me, just like High School DxD. Harry X Ravel X Harem. The harem is made up of Ravel, Isabella, Carlamine, Shualon, Sikvera Ages, Benia, Valerie Teeps, Kyom Abe, Calawarner and Ika Kiryu. New Sacred Gears, new characters, new sagas and such will appear, therefore in itself this FIC will not fully enter the fee. In the previous cap, I forget to add Calawarner to the harem, so apologize. The series used in this FIC as basis for the OCS are the following: Sekire, Danger Rampa and Tsukiheim/Fate Stay Night, Naciverse. I repeat them and notify them in advance. Only the appearance, personality, more or less altered history, power, and such characters will be used, not the sagas of the series, so this would not be a multi-crossover, such as with Danganronpa. Justin, I have only seen some videos and read wiki, so if someone does not know who Nagito Kamita is, well, and there is no need to find out all the series, but it will not be my creation but a basis of a character of another series already made, because I don't believe that Gary Stu bored. I must also clarify that I find out that Ravel had another name without a name, so not to get into mess, since in anterior chapter only mention Riser and Ruvel, I will tell that Ravel only has those 2 brothers. Harry Potter, now you are a demon. In the darkness something moved, a fire being moved, a phoenix moved, a being of great power moved. He was not the only one who moved. A white tiger also moved. A green turtle also moved. A blue dragon also moved. Unexpected something extra moved. A golden dragon also moved. And all together they whispered, "Our awakening will soon happen and nobody will stop us." When Harry woke up, he felt deeply confused, not that he had died. Oh, wasn't it? But then why woke up in a room and was breathing? Not that the dead did not breathe. What was happening? At least, I was alive? But how? The flickering quickly to focus exactly that he was actually seeing a specific roof. He with an effort looked everywhere, taking note that it was a simple but a bit elegant room with his red paint that gave a brilliance to the place and a velvet curtains, or what he thought was fine velvet. Aspiring a little air, Harry was irrigating a slight groan of pain, but he was finally sitting in the bed in which he was and got up with cautious steps to the window of the room in which he was. It can be because his being could say that he was almost an inch of his death, so he would explain because he had not jumped to get out of where in the place that was, or as he has not noticed the black wool pants he used and the bandages they had in some part of his body. No, he ignored that, and instead he sent her in the desire that in his being made him guide him towards the window, taking note as a little shock that the sky was purple, and that the earth was different, and that there he saw some people in the distance flying with bat wings. Then suddenly listen to a sound out of the window, weird that he does not notice how he is able to feel that, to turn and see that he was a chestnut girl wearing a French servant suit, and with bat wings. Mourisir. It seems that the boy who Miss Ravel brought has aroused, exclaimed the young woman out loud, seeing a young man of blonde hair and fire's wings that flew in the air next to a beautiful woman with purple hair. Okay, that was too much for Harry. Apparently he finished hell. Why did that happen? Do not yourself sacrifice enough to end up in hell? Although hell or face has, because according to his knowledge there should not be girls in French suit on those sides. Thus with so much shock Harry fainted to the ground, suffering an attack by so many follies that he knew in a single moment. And at the entrance of the Ravel Phoenix room I looked at such an event before putting his hands on his face and moaning deeply. I know this will be very difficult. Couple of hours later. What am I, a demon? I will not accept that. I can't live like that. I'll finish alive now. Well, wait. Hold. Half an hour later. My, they were right. I am a monster. Finish in hell. And after I sacrifice me to save your ass a whole damn country of magicians' children. How bad? How bad? It's bad to fuck. I should go to heaven because Maury like a hero, and looks how he ends. Look. Listen to me clearly and sniff. Sniff. Wawa. This wawa cannot happen to me. That. Take a break for a while. 2 hours later. How to escape? I feel Lady Ravel. I couldn't do anything but use a skill and ran. He only took one of Lord Riser's personal cars and then, Rurum. My brother is not going to like this. An hour later. Destroy it. It's over. Today you die of lower class devil. Riser. Calm yourself now. Don't you see what is shock? And he is crying while even an insarks. Leave it alone. It already has it badly. Good. I will leave him alone, but never think of approaching my dear cars. Or else I kill him. Half an hour later. Wawa. Sniff. Sniff. Wawa. Only. Just a nap and we talk after you calm down. 3 days later. For Ravel the past days were perhaps the most difficult he had in his existence. He had to have expected that, and he was supposed to have expected that, but both she and the other young demons seem to have a happy thought when it comes to the induction of someone in his nobility. At the end of all, demons are portrayed only as evil beings in the Bible and partly are but to. Like the human race, they are able to do good and evil. They are beings with free will that could decide who they are and not who should be. But they are still demons, and the human race in its entirety fears of demons. Young devils are really naive, waiting for them to just save their lives. Who would reincarnate would accept their new lifestyle with ease. How lucky Rias Grammary, Sona Citri, Serorg Bale, Sikvera ages, Riser Phoenix among other young demons, that those who were part of their nobleness quickly accepted their nobles quickly accepted their situation. But not everything was pink. Ravel thought genuinely that apart from a little surprise his new queen of his new nobility would be grateful to her, and thus a union of fellow would begin to form, but it was not so. His new second command perhaps showed the most crazy but logical reaction when someone learns that he became a demon. He panically and almost suffered a tremendous existential crisis. Asus to Ravel. He was afraid. When her parents and brothers knew that she wanted to form her own nobility and turn the human boy I rescued was a bit of shock. It was originally thought that Ravel would become a bishop of Riser, but thought it was better so for Ravel's stubbornness as well as what they discovered from the boy that Ravel accept. Although they had to do lever with one of the subordinates of Ajuka Beelzebub about Ravel in having his own evil Pete. The particular demon since the human world had to be taken to restore the members of his nobility, since obviously it would have to be very lucky to find possible members in the infernal world that were no longer taken by other demons, but then his father Kahago Phoenix fights a little about it, since no one was so stupid as not to notice the remarkable favoritism of Rias Gruli and Sona Citri since they were girls. And everything because they were sisters of two of the Mao. Of course, Kahago mentioned those words in a low voice. Searches can be a man who turns to his wife, and Serafal has a fetish of magic girl, but when they are serious and more really they are able to become true beasts, and even more if his sisters are those that ends up affected by any kind of problems and slander, although with different intentions they can produce a lot of problems for him and for his family. Low and a little discussion managed to solve that problem, and Ravel had its own evil pieces. Already with those pieces and with the body of his future second in the safe command in his house, Ravel started the ritual to turn the boy rescued, Harry in this case, in his queen. Why would a queen wonder? Turning a boy into a queen is purely offensive if it is not that the type in specific does not beat for the other team, but in total a man or a teenager or a male in total would feel offended and humiliated to be called someone's queen, but the truth is that there was no other option. For a simpler explanation, when someone is reincarnated using an evil piece, how many pawns are classified? For an example, you have someone who is in the average and without any special skill because that person is worth a single pawn. If it is a remarkable magician, then it would perhaps cost 2 or 3 pawn pieces, instead with a sacred gear the amount of pawns to relive it. It varies, since a normal sacred gear could be worth 3 or 4 and 5, and even one of the Longinus type could be worth 8 pawns. After he had used the ritual and having turned the boy who accepted his queen, he just had to wait a few days before he woke up from his coma, and from there he had a lot to do. Clear. He does not consider things to take a terrible way. His new queen did not take her new life as a demon well. She got hysterical. She had a panic attack, and if it weren't because she was still tired of sure she had begun a fight and thought she was only exaggerating, but when I really tried to commit suicide, Ravel really knew that the problem was really serious. And then more screaming came, after I tried to escape using one of the collection cars that Reiser had saved and finally refused to talk to her, that in the end the only option that remains to safeguard the situation was to make it sleep and let it rest. Since then her new queen had not left her room without talking to anyone, either eating or exiting anything, only locked in that room. His queen hated, feared, and cursed having been turned into a devil. There was no doubt it was an answer that should be respected of a normal human in reacting such a situation, but as it was said, it was pure luck that has not happened before, until now, since Ravel had to calm his new second in command but did not know how to conquer. Is it weird, right? I raised his eyes from the ground to run into his mother's, Han Phoenix, before the Stola's house, which specialized in astronomy, knowledge in the toxic plants and precious stones. It was a house not as strong as the others, but they had their talents and had very good economic stability. In total, Han was an affectionate woman, soft and a little wise. Children that these are unaware. Therefore sitting next to his daughter in the seats of the balcony of Ravel's room to see the distance dash. A new demon acting in this way. True, daughter? Do you have to give the boy a little daughter? He thought he was really dead, and when he woke up, it is surprising to see him hysterical when he thought he ended in hell. Wait, if we are in hell, but not as a sinner but as a demon of free suffering. The child must know that it is another place where souls end, but he will eventually learn. Ravel, you have to give him space for him to accept his situation. In truth, this is the first time I see a newly reincarnated demon to have such a reaction. It is a bit worrying. What ends like a street demon? My common sense dictates that he could escape and become a fugitive, but my instincts tell me otherwise. I have also read things in the stars. Strelas? Okay, Mom, I know you are good in astronomy, but how are you going to see stars if there is no here? With my special crystal ball, it allows me to better see the sky in the human world. Why do you think the glass sphere always took care of in my office? Oh, that. The interpretation of the stars for a specific event for a specific subject or subjects is not easy for anyone to learn, but someone like me was once part of Stoll's clan is extremely simple. I saw in the star signs of different constellations that betrayed things in specific, such as fortune, best, lower battles unit, decisive, and love. I do not know exactly that it will happen, but these things, especially the minor part, refer to you, daughter. Also, unity represents how logical the union is logical. This boy will be united with you. I do not doubt that. Although the love and decisive worries me, the love is not so serious, but love for my daughter or love for that child. I am confused, but the decisive thing is serious. It represents that what will happen will be something of great importance. And my daughter will be in the middle of it. Dash. I only hope that he is well. One worried Ravel. I did not know why he was so united to that boy, that not even the name wise, but perhaps because he saw in him a little hope of leaving his predetermined future in marrying a demon pure blood and wandering in life without being able to do anything else. Perhaps because he was his new queen, who perhaps wanted to turn him into his closest ally and his friend. The Phoenix were perhaps among the 10. They treated their subordinates as a family with the Citri and Gremory. Reiser can be an arrogant pervert, but the man did not gain the loyalty and love of his nobility only with a meaning. Ravel's opinion. She wanted respect and loyalty of her new queen, but wanted an ally close to the end of everything. A friend, if you can tell him so. In addition, she did not escape the words of her new queen. It seemed that she had a hard childhood, and that her wounds or her condition was the result of a battle which he thought she died in self, a correction to stop a great evil. It seemed that this great being was right in one thing. Perhaps his new queen really was a hero. Dash. I'm sorry for the uproar that caused. I only surprised a little, of course that is to fall short. Harry had a crisis, tremendous existential. He always wanted to be normal and had always respected his sense of good in himself. Would the Dursley tell him incessantly for more than 10 years about how monster he was and how he was not going to be anything in the future, made him have the desire to renege in his words and be a better person. Now after all I finish now as a demon which did not like Harry. The worst thing was that he had already accepted his death, had accepted the end of his way, and had his forehead high in going in peace in order to be with his parents in the beyond. He was at peace but discovered that instead he woke up as a demon. Anyone would scare himself, but thanks to the surprise words of the woman named Eubeluna, and some of the other girls who followed him in how they shared their experiences as demons, managed to calm Harry of his deep depression. I was still there, it will never disappear. The feeling that was no longer human and that in the end will never be normal would continue with him for a long time. I had to accept it from now. Never and will never be normal. But from something I could not forget is that this blonde-hair girl had saved her life and took so much trouble to take care of her for what she owed, and Harry Potter was not a person dishonest. So his pain and discomfort was brought to be ready and meet the one saved. Thus he took a few steps to be seen by the minor demon, who looked at him with an indecipherable look before getting up from his seat and approaching the young Potter before stopping him in front of him, and although he was smaller than the Pelanegro, she could see him directly in the eyes. Emerald green eyes gathered with dark blue, and there Harry noticed how the young blonde looked at him with attention and a little worry. Harry felt like his instincts, and I told him more that he could trust. This girl, something big, told him that everything would be fine. Ravel, on the other hand, carefully observed his new queen, taking note of the bonfires under his eyes and pale skin. Perhaps he did not sleep well, he could guess, but apart from that he could see him calm. Perhaps I accept his new state as a demon, or at least he could recover a little composure. In the same way, it was time to meet him. She extended her hands towards the fault of the raven, taking it soft but firm at the same time, and looking directly into her eyes. My name is Ravel Phoenix of the Phoenix House, and I am your king from now on. From now on you will fight for me, and you will serve me without hesitation. In return I assure you that I will always take care of you, and I will always respect you. I will wait for the same from you. Now give your name, my queen. My name is Harry Potter. You saved my life. I will serve you, and if we trust together, I assure you that I will never leave you. It was a promise that Harry felt that he had to say. To see that girl closer and feel her hands on her face brought her memory of a friend who was recent for him, but that it was one of the closest. Lewin, to share someone. This girl named Ravel had not suffered what Luna suffered, but also had her disappointments. His instinct told him that he would help him and decided that he would do so. Suddenly something caught the attention. Wait a moment, how do you like it? Fu. Oh, this will be something fun. He thought with Funhand Phoenix, watching his daughter to look the other way as Harry Potter explained to his new status as Queen of Ravel's nobility, for while Marion smiled, he smiled without further ado on the other side of the room. Han, as a pure blood demon, would be worried to the sudden and unexpected union of his daughter and his servant, but the truth did not care. On the one hand, she would let her daughter marry who she wanted, since she herself did not have that opportunity. In addition to the other side, in a serious way, the Phoenix House was already secured with Ravel, and her offspring, in addition to Han, was not stupid. Apart from her marriage, he will end up having who knows how many children with the women of his nobility. The Phoenix House was well assured, so he will allow his daughter to slaughter on whom he will choose to be his husband. Of course, he thought with a malicious smile, that boy had to prove his worth as a suitor, or would be to become ash by the anger of the male members of the Phoenix family if he dared to hurt Ravel. On the other hand, Harry Potter felt a chill, and in the depths of his being, a mystical beast nodded for himself in how his user had accessed the requests he had sent, confused by messages of the instinct. In the same way, he remains silently waiting with patience when his user enters into contact with him and knows the reach of his new power. I hop and patience that meeting. A month later. A month had spent since Harry Potter, the new queen of Ravel Phoenix, had reached the Phoenix Mansion, and things have progressed with some other events. On the one hand, Ravel had accepted the family to Harry, and even thought about teaching him some things when he had time. Reiser only threatened not to bother his sister and stay away from his own nobility and his beloved collection of cars. Robodesh. Reiser still did not forget the incident with his Ferrari, but beyond that Reiser did not deign to talk to Harry. Kahago Phoenix had seriously talked to Harry, letting him know that he was the owner of the place and that he expected respect he deserved, but he did not have to investigate Lord Phoenix flatter, so their relationship were extremely stable. Harry hated that deeply, but he had to swallow all courage and put his efforts in his study. To finish it, it was discovered that it was in 2013 that caused a little problem, since no one could explain how Harry ended at such time when he had been in 1995. So in the end, special classes had to be scheduled both for the adaptation of Harry to the 21st century, since the young man did not know that he was a cell phone, and worse was that Harry lost school education since he was 11 years old. So in level current educational, Harry had barely finished primary. Nobility at one point will have to go to the human world, and that its queen has not completed the first course of the baccalaureate would be a shame to Ravel as well as the Phoenix Chamber. Harry simply told them the truth of why he had not started the baccalaureate, as that his fault was not fully, although Kahago and Han thought that whatever the British school that was the queen of his daughter must have been a deplorable to not having considered the worldly studies that are very important if you want to continue in the current world. So a month after, according to Harry, being torture and impatience, studies and such, Ravel was finally the first opportunity to prove Harry's powers and thus start training to become strong, as apparently listened to rumors on how the so-called 4 novice demons had obtained in their new noble members such as Grem. It inclined 1 or 2 and did not join the talented queen of the nobility of the heiress Gremory. The nobility of Sarorg was simply full of rejected demons, and although that would not be seen as a danger considering the crazy desire to train from the Airbale, then one could think how strong that nobility has to be. Sikvera Garces, since it is said that a user of sacred gear possessed in his nobility of the worst type, Longinus, although it was not known which of all the 13. As Ravel wanted to build a great nobility to gain respect in the infernal world, she wanted to have a large group, and with her queen she could see what was on the right track. What do I have to do? I do not have my Juan Menciono. Harry nervous, while Ravel flashes a little confused before such an answer before seeing it totally weird. He knew that his second-in-command was rare in himself, as the fact that I never listened to demons, even being a wizard or as a school called Hogwarts or one Voldemort or things like that, was never heard. Also, as it seems surprised about some facts that I comment on. Supernatural, or how separate world was technology. She who was raised in the underworld and wise how to walk in the current human world if she had to do it, but her queen did not know that she was an electric train. So here his queen says that he cannot do anything without his wand. Something that many magicians do not use since it was a fragrant weakness. So he looks at his queen without completely understanding him. Harry realized, what? That? How? What? Wand? What do you need a wand? To do magic? Oh, you were serious. Listen to me, Harry, I don't know what kind of school you were, but I thought that considering your magic levels you would be more or less at the level of a medium-high level magician in skill, and that you continue using a wand is rare and a bit stupid. Hey! I am not stupid, but you give me a lot. I'm not so strong, I'm just the average. Oh really? Harry, please, don't say those stupid statements. If you were average magician, organizations in the human world would be more dangerous, which is not, it is offensive to say that. Whatever? What did I say? Harry, when I brought you to the mansion my father did an analysis in your body. You have a tremendous level of magical power. It is so high that if you want you could destroy the entire mansion if you have the right knowledge and control, but it has a lot of raw power. My father knows about that since he has faced in the past many magicians and knows how the energy levels difference. That's nothing. I'm not so special. I have a little more magic, but it's not so excitement, said Harry with a smile, soft, while shook his hand, giving importance to the matter. Ravel sighs slightly before that action. In the month he had known his new queen acknowledged that yes, he was a good person and is a good second-in-command. He knew to respect her, but at the same time he could wait for him to acted with her as if it were someone normal. She was proud of her lineage and such, but she was raised to be the best in the nobility for what gave respect to those who won. He had found dark trends of his new queen, could bet that he did not have an easy life, and his status as a demon still affected him, but was also too humble. Right now he was praising him and was bringing him importance. He could not allow that behavior. It was a demonstration of weakness, and there were many allies of the Phoenix House that despised the weakness, and if Harry did not prove proud for himself could be ridiculed, and that would damage the image of the Phoenix House. It is better to cut this matter from now on. No. Harry, do not despise your skills. It is not just special, you are special, and that is definitive. If you continue to deny your skills, will you be seen as weak? Do you want me and my family to be criticized because my queen is a guy who despises his own gifts? Do you want that? Your denial to your skills is a serious offense, and not only offends me but everyone really wants that? No.
I'm sorry, Ravel.
I hate politics and all those complicated but quiet things. I will not be ashamed, and I will not cause you problems. Why, it comes to mind how many problems caused the Gryffindor house? Well, I did one other legs, but I know that I will not do one here. At least they won't treat me like the Dursleys. I hope they don't do it if I make mistakes. Val, but do not repeat, despise the inferiors, contempt for the weak uncultures, are the rioters who do not have the power to support their words and are so complaining that they do nothing to support their words. I respect those who affirm their beliefs and do not portray, even more if they have the power to do so. Listen to me this Harry well. I do not hate those who lack powers but those who have the opportunity to have great power and still deny it for stupid reasons. We have the power and for something we should use it? Do you hate me? For being weak? No. Don't say that. It is because I tell you this is for you to know that I recognize you as someone strong. I trust you a lot in you. Are you my second in command, my closest? If there is danger I know that you will be there to fight for me, but how will that happen if you have no trust in your skills? That is why this Harry recalls. You are strong, you will be strong but have confidence and pride in yourself. You are the queen of my nobility belonging to the proud Phoenix house. We have our pride that taking care of. Dash. Okay, I will do as you want Ravel, it is not easy. Receiving praise like that is not something that received very often. But I promise you that I will not be weak. I assure you, I will be stronger. To hide something, it is not normal for you not to be proud of your talent. One day I will ask you. Harry knows why I made a queen, right? Because 9 pieces of pawn. Initially I thought of becoming my piece of bishop or even my mutant pawn piece, but the truth is that it was not enough. You know why? Because you have the greatest potential of everything. Both your magical energy and your mestizo ancestry, and I don't even talk about your sacred gear. Is worth it even if I am not just relying as a queen. It is offensive. You have a lot of talent, so you do not blame me. Also, you are not the only one being a male queen. The former great dragon Tannen King, the meteor blaze dragon, is a queen, and the queen of Sikvera Agars is a man, so you are not the only one. Then returning to the matter, even explode why you say that you can't do magic without your wand since you have so much power? Wands are not widely used by magicians, and one with as much power as you, Harry, it makes me weird. But it's just with my wand that I can do magic. Dash. That? Oh God. You really believe in what you are saying, Harry? The magic can be used with the imagination. You are a demon now, so only use the imagination to do anything with the demonic power, and the use of magic is no different. You don't need a wand to do magic. Who put that idea in your head? Dash. Well, my teachers? Oh, they were some fools. A wand is a means for. Did you know? Let's leave it that way. That is already in the past, and now we are in the future, so we can start training. He only thinks that now that you are a demon you can do magic just by wishing him. You don't sound so easy. He is not. It has to be visualized and understand what you want. Elementary spells contrary to the affinity that have as fire, earth and ray, but it will be more difficult. I'm already understanding. And when the magic of demons, angels, fallen and human angels allow to do anything according to their wishes is more that focus on a rule where the limit only has the user. For example, in the Great War, the leader of the Phoenix family of the time made his flames evolve to make him flames of the burn element, or Japanese shikutten, flames that incinerate even the water, which demonstrates how much a person can move forward if he has the desire, and in total if a classified user puts a type of magic and spell imagination the key to this. So I know you can give it an attempt. Okay, I don't think I can deny me with such a speech. Well, let's see, I will try an offensive spell. Here we are going. Expelliarmus. Harry exclaimed, extending his hand forward. The truth did not expect much, since in Hogwarts it was said that magic without a wand was impossible, since only powerful magicians could do it, and Harry always saw himself as someone on the average. Also, even if he was able to do something like Insane Demon, he expected perhaps a small spark or something. It seemed that Harry did not remember how he defeated Voldemort, because I don't consider how much raw power he possessed. I didn't expect what happened. A tremendous expansive wave. The earth in front of him raising land everywhere, while the waves continued forward and Choco shoulders, and that will surely end in a nice happy ending after all. Han, if she realized, but she simply chosen her shoulders, not detecting any danger, and continued in her task of pleased her husband. On the other side, in the training field, Ravel and Harry saw the result of what happened with shock looks before Ravel looked with petulance to his queen, who crossed his arms while blushing. That did not prove anything. Oh, continues to speak. I love about the reason. Yes, well, I'm good in magical spells, what's there? Well, we have to work hard, we have to work on your style of spells, and how many knows what things you should learn. Perhaps fire and barrier spells can be your specialty. Then we will work in physical work. As queen you have faculties of tower, balery and gentleman, so you have to be strong in resistance, magical power and speed. Then we will have to deepen your latent skills of your miscegenation and your sacred gear. Really, my new queen is going to be the strongest and I will be the most famous phoenix, ha 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 ha. Laughs as a villain of cartoon, it's a bit cute. A moment, wait, what you want with miscegenation and what is that of sacred gear? Ravel stops laughing suddenly. Are you serious, right? You don't know what I'm talking about, right? I ask, surprised and a little serious Ravel, that it is said that he could already say that his queen was not to lie. He was honest or clumsy, but he knew that he would not lie because if it were the opposite he was going against what his queen was. A humble boy to exasperation. And as he did not know how much magical power he could expect not to know about his other skills. So he released a sigh when he saw Harry's target look and decided to speak. Harry, display your wings. I think this is my fault that you do not know. We have not even allowed you to display your wings. Display your wings. My wings? What are you taking about? Fliss. It's wings, Harry, those that I speak. Ravel pointed to the aforementioned, and then Harry, to see them, could discover what his new love/king referred. It would never be normal, even being a demon. Its destiny was to remain an abnormal. I cursed strongly. Their wings were not like the bat wings that Riser's nobility had. Their wings were not by chance of fire feathers of the Phoenix clan. Their wings was like a fusion of them. They were of bats in their base being black, but already in half of them they changed, ceasing to be wings of bat pointed of a red and black bird that reached the ground. What does this mean? Because? Why can't I be normal even here? Because? Harry thought, a little distressed about how life once again made him stand out. I hated that, I really hated him. Ravel, watching his queen's anguish, decided to approach him, and with soft love his hand on one of his cheeks, which attracted the attention of the lower-class demon that blushed the same because of the proximity of a girl as well as for the intimate contact, and had to admit that Ravel was beautiful even if he was a year shorter than him, but he repressed the composure when he saw how the young blonde was worried about him. Harry went a little, and I speak at that time to Ravel because my wings are like that, Ravel? It's for your mestizo blood, Harry. Sometimes this occurs, the subject's blood is so strong that part of his being as a reincarnated demon shows his ancient lineage. It usually occurs with the fallen angels, furias, karasutangu and dragons where their wings show their old lineage. My mestizo blood? Do you mean I'm a mestizo? How? What do you mean? Am I a weirdo? No again. No, Harry, you are not. You are really special. Your blood the reason why my mother and father accepted so fast to allow me to become a king and have my own nobility. All that is because you are a raw jewel without equal, Harry. You are the one who will be a pride for my house. You will be great. Because, Harry, your miscegenation is simple. You are half human and half phoenix. But that is impossible. I know who were my parents and I assure you that they did not have the blood of phoenix in. Harry stopped their shock exclamations before slowly an expression of surprise and understanding crossed their face. Fox tears 3 years ago could be the answer, but that made no sense. He only received a few drops, but that did not make him a phoenix. It was impossible. Harry did not know that in each of the times he was in Hogwarts nursing he was always visited by Fox and given healing tears of it. Harry was very suertudo in his adventures, but they took tolls and was so many times on the edge of death that the only way to save his life was with tears of phoenix. Dumbledore thought about not saying about these events not to worry and scare him. In total, Harry had received more than 1 liter voluntarily given of phoenix tears that have cured a lot of wounds in the young Potter over the years. There was also the young man's wand, since he had a strong affinity with the nucleus that contained a tail of a phoenix. When he left the kingdom of death, his body absorbed the essence of the wand, which explained how the magical power of Harry explained a bit, but as he acquired more phoenix ranges, but it was not enough. Something else made the change. What a moment is a sacred gear. What do I have a sacred gear? Correct, Harry, is for your sacred gear that helped me choose my decision to found my own nobility and become part of it. Your sacred gear is really unique. It is one that has never existed before, and the being that is sealed in him is a powerful being that my parents and my brother Ravel revere when they found out about him. What is it? Tell me, Ravel. It is simple. I decided to name it as King Phoenix, possessor of the soul of one of the 4 symbolic beasts. Juquet, the vermilion bird, the southern phoenix and the fire, lord of the summers and one of the most powerful phoenix of all, along with the strength of one of the 50s dragons. And the surprising, Harry, is that, what? Why do you suddenly stop, Ravel? Because Juquet was supposed to have died with his brothers more than 1,000 years ago and at the hands of the bird of thunder Godslayer. And Harry, that being is a danger to you because if Juke somehow continues to exist, perhaps the bird of the ray sky continues to exist somewhere. And this maybe I could look for you to kill you, and being that is in your sacred gear. That? Another crazy man could try to look for me to kill me? Not again. Interestingly, fate had nothing to do with this. Elsewhere. Human world. How were things so bad? He urgently thought the fallen angel Calawarner while leaning on a tree holding his side that prayed blood for his tremendous wound. Things in general seemed strange, and to worsen her now that she was supposedly in a simple mission she ended very injured. Mr. Azazel, Mr. Penemew, Lord Amaros and Mr. Barraquil had been restless due to a growing increase in what supernatural for a month ago. Apparently at that time there was a kind of something that happened that expelled forms of powerful energies that moved to the human world before disappearing. Until now in total Calawarner could say that nothing has happened except that there was a town somewhere that was destroyed and massacred in the worst way. According to rumors, something in a somewhat released a lot of something dark that wrought all the beings that came into contact, and even more than 2 weeks since then, as her friend Middle told her, she was still contaminated after intense hours of purification and such. On the one hand, Calawarner would think that dealing with those things in the human world was a loss of time, but the truth, Mr. Azazel was very benevolent and respectful of human life. That a city has been evaporated by something evil, thought it was his duty to know who was the guilty, although he also had to be pragmatic to know if it was a possible threat. Due to the urgencies of the high controls of Grigori, many low-ranking angels have been sent with the task of surveillance, and if it is possible, invitation to the organization of Sacred Gear's users. His forces was not in the best optimal conditions, so that the invitation of humans with Sacred Gear to the fraction of Fallen Angel was a good play, although it was not very good for a part of the Fallen Angels, especially Cocabeal. Calawarner simply gave a cumin to the matter. Although he liked to bother humans by teaching her that even with everything as a fallen angel was still a superior. Then she ended in a small town in the middle of nowhere in Japan, apparently watching 2 people who had Sacred Gear who responded with the names of Nekomaru Nidai and apparently his girlfriend named Akane Owari. Apparently the first was coach of several teams in high school, while his girlfriend was a very famous gymnast in his school. They were not so special, and Calawarner really bothered, but then a few weeks later something happened out of the ordinary. An exit girl from who knows where they approached them, and then Nekomaru Nidai showed their Sacred Gear. It was a true monstrosity. A second were in that empty park, and the next there was an explosion of electricity and destruction everywhere. Calawarner in the future could swear that I hear the shape of a bird made of electricity from the attack and the sound of 1,000 birds. She was going to act to know the situation, but then it was when, perhaps, she discovered the cause of the infection of that city that so interest had Mr. Azazel. Pure trunk unknown stalls totally out of nowhere. Ugh! Just remembering it. It makes me want to vomit. He thought about Calawarner with difficulty as he trembled at the same time. What he believed was a battle was so fast and chaotic that it could not be located correctly, and then that pure evil arose from nowhere that attacked her without equal. She swore. Damn, it was sworn that if it were not because of her holy light she opened her. Of monsters that filled him with a terrible feeling of endless despair. When he managed to calm down, he was able to observe Nekomaru Nidai and his girlfriend injured and unconscious, being sealed by the cause of not only defeating the 2 humans but also incapacitating her as well as half of human beings in that people. Calawarner tried to stop the cause of such an event with a spear of light, but that girl, that thing simply turned around, looked at him with his gray eyes, and they shone with endless madness before the whole area was consumed. For a better way of explaining it would be shadows full of despair before disappearing as sudden as it appeared. Not only does his spear of light destroy, but he destroyed a whole block around, and if it were not for his wings, Calawarner knew that he opened dead but was injured both physically and emotionally, so he prepared to inform the Lord Azazel and Grigori what would have happened, but when he went to teleportation he suffered an endless pain, and for his dismay it seems extremely injured by some kind of curse in his body, specifically on his side, which prevented the complete use of his powers. Desperate of his situation, decided to go to the city, where her friend Rainier would be, in order to inform the situation, but in the middle of the road she was attacked by a street demon called Visor, with whom she had to fight, but with her wounded state the battle was hard, and she, although she came out victorious, more wounded term. And there she was in the middle of a forest by trying to use a healing spell, but whatever that girl. That thing of pink hair that took Nekomaru Nidai and Akane Owari left him an incurable curse. And I couldn't sleep because he suffered nightmares and his energy was very worn. What the hell was what attacked him? She could not deny the truth more. She was going to die, that was safe. It was a really pity since she could not say this information to Mr. Azazel, who always saw the best in her even when she herself knew that it was not worth it. It was so his devotion to the great fallen angel that I even accept Rainer's stupid plan to make some sacred gears to be true utility to Mr. Azazel. But it seemed that he was not going to be able to fulfill. It seemed that this end was really, and with a grimace he closed his eyes letting the time fly, and that the moment of its end arrives. His body seemed to accept his desire because he slowly began to fall as peaceful. I will take you to a safe place and cure you. I swear for my honor to help you, or I don't call me Carloman, the most honorable knight. He had a young woman with a short brown hair and green eyes who looked deeply with concern while keeping her sword in her cover and carefully took Calawarner in a girlfriend style. If the fallen angel was in her best state she would have laughed that a human such a state. Instead slowly began to fall asleep without worrying if this human was going to be able to help her or not. I would only let fate decide which was yours. Thus Carloman took to the fallen angel that he found and using a reinforcement spell in his body ran at high speed willing to reach his cabana in order to give medical support to the woman who met. He had sworn for his honor that would help him, and she would never break her honor. Will continue. Well, here is the chapter. I hope it has been of your liking. In total it is not curious that any those who become a demon do not react so badly when they know that they became a demon, especially Asia, that at least it must have shown a little trauma or something. My theory in this FIC is that being Harry of a normal world leaving aside the magical world reacted like any human in his reactionary situation. In addition to he thought just that his situation was terrible but the achievement of calm, but will remain a bit bitter about his current status. I have shown the facet of King of Ravel being worried about her queen but showing her desire that her queen will be a powerful demon in addition to her motivation and how to try to deal with a problem, being her strategic and such was expected to be able to see things that others not. Oh, has characters from Danganronpa appear and who was that bug being? If someone knows Danganronpa of sure who speaks, that is just because I have seen some videos and thing of wiki. I am not a teacher or anything. Then we have Carloman and Calawarner. What will those two happen to them now? In the following episode Harry learns from Juke. Ends in Hokkaido, they know Carloman and Calawarner but then they are attacked by a serial murderer and his friend Barba Azul and how so invokes demons out of Tulu or what is it called? Toaneo 07. Harry Potter does not belong to me just like High School DxD. Harry X Ravel X Harem. The harem is made up of Ravel, Isabella, Carloman, Shualon, Sikvera Ages, Benia, Valerie Teeps, Kyom Abe, Calawarner and Ika Kiryu. New sacred gears, new characters, new sagas and such will appear, therefore in itself this FIC will not fully enter the fee. In the previous cap I forget to add Calawarner to the harem so apologize. The series used in this FIC as basis for the OCS are the following: Sekire, Danger Rampa and Tsukiheim/Fate Stay Night, Naciverse. I repeat them and notify them in advance. Only the appearance, personality, more or less altered history, power and such characters will be used, not the sagas of the series, so this would not be a multi-crossover such as with Danganronpa. Justin, I have only seen some videos and read wiki, so if someone does not know who Nagito Kamita is, well, and there is no need to find out all the series, but it will not be my creation but a basis of a character of another series already made, because I don't believe that Gary Stu bored. I must also clarify that I find out that Ravel had another name without a name, so not to get into mess since in anterior chapter only mention Riser and Ruvel, I will tell that Ravel only has those two brothers. Saga 1 Jack in Hokkaido. The Sacred Gear King Phoenix, which had the soul of one of the 4 Chinese symbolic beasts ensealed. Juke, the Vermilion Bird, the South and Fire Phoenix, Lord of the Summers who was inside the body of Harry James Potter. The Vermilion Avenue is in existence with its brothers and the same that made up the group of 4 symbolic beasts, although they were previously called 4 sacred beasts, but it turned out that a group of bestial beings in Vietnam took the title when Juke and his brothers died centuries ago. When Harry Potter passed through the land of Juke death and his brothers embed special claws where there were sacred gears who had beings of great power sealed inside, and even with leaving the earth from deaths these beings are no later are conscious ghosts without body that in total alone they cannot do much in the world. So they have no other than joining a human or a being that has one human side or other medium. Agree what type of skill you have, the spirit in which it is sealed. Some but half are rapidly classified as Longinus. One more reason than the bizarre that can be the system without God handling it. Michael can't do everything at the end. You mean that by having this is called inside me it was because I became half a phoenix? Harry confused while Kahago Phoenix took a little coffee from his rate while reading a book sitting in his seat with the company in his private office. Next to his side was his wife reading also, although he was more a magazine than something else, and Ravel was still present, only that she was still your queen. Harry scratches his head a little, confused. But that makes no sense. They would have already informed if it was half phoenix when I studied at Hogwarts, or if I had something sealed inside me. Sincerely, many things did not tell me in Hogwarts that I have ended up learning here, and I am really confused how it is possible that it can be half a phoenix. It is not possible that this may happen. It is biologically impossible. We also think that the pure phoenix at this time are beings that have rational thoughts to a certain point, but the mating between one with a human is impossible, and I thought that perhaps you are the result of an experiment, since you say that you had magician human parents without any range of a phoenix, but with the discovery in how you possess the vermilion bird inside you, then we will only have to say that it was for him that you have those ranges. Is it bad? That is to be half a phoenix? Nothing of that. Moreover, it is a blessing that my daughter has discovered such a rough jewel. The powers of a phoenix and a phoenix are very different from what would be expected, but perhaps with us they learn to better handle those powers. How different are they? Oh, are very different, because you will see the Phoenix clan at the beginning we did not have phoenix skills, but before the Bible existed and the world was young our clan was in the race to find their special ability, with the Bale with their power of destruction, with the Bune with their dragon transformation ability, and the Marba with their transformation of lions. It was proof that if we wanted to stand out among the other pillars we should have a unique power and study these three clans. Discover a mode. The power of a beast. The phoenix can suppose. Exact. We went to several parts of the world to obtain the intense fire of the great phoenix, Fenghuang and Zhuke being the main ones. Therefore they are considered our ancestors. When we obtained their powers, thus we became the powerful Phoenix clan of the immortals. I see. Kahago took a sip of his drink and looked at the vacuum for a second before speaking again. It is more a physical regeneration more than anything else. Severe damage, as perhaps the destruction of a heart, is a damage that I am not sure you would be able to cure, but the loss of members can be cured and recovered if it is completely concentrated in it. Being your half Phoenix, I can assume that minor wounds and one that other base will be cured over time, but unlike us an attack of a heart or worse to the brain would already be young Potter. Yes, sir. Well, of course, a Phoenix has an advantage that the Phoenix do not have. Our clan is said to handle the air and fire naturally. Well, it is actually a lie. We have an affinity to those true spells, but a Phoenix does not immediately dominate it. In truth, our fire attacks is more the use of the fire of our forms of foe, and we throw it. And when growing you need to train in elementary art and such. But in essence we are not attached to the elements. A phoenix instead. Ravel urged Harry in a low voice to try, which the raven does it with Malagana, although he is later surprised since from nowhere a ball of fire appears in his right hand, although the fire was black and red. No tie like the phoenix. Kahago nodded, totally pleased, while Hans smiled at such a wonder. Look how much you have done, and although it is small I can say it has nothing wrong since it is your first attempt. With more effort and control you can be able to create a high height sphere. This is the power of your phoenix blood. The innate control of the fire but not only serves for destruction but for healing. This fire also serves to cure wounds, something for which the Phoenix clan is not able to do. The phoenix, the light, since the fire produces it. The phoenix are beings that were worshipped as beasts of lighting, so they have immunity to light, and you being a demon your ranges like phoenix makes you immune to any weapon made of light of an exorcist or a angel or a fallen angel, something that we are not immune. Of course, the blessed water, spells of exorcisms and crosses hurt you, but it is extremely rare that a demon reincarnating be immune to light. Wow! It's amazing how much power has a phoenix. I do not like to highlight, but considering that being immune to light can save my life one day, I don't have to complain. It's correct. That is why the phoenix have not been seen in more than 400 years, and it is because with the effective no one would discover a way of hurting us like. Also respect the gift that the ancestors gave us. Something that I am very agreement. Harry looked at Mr. Phoenix. Many nobles would not have such a thought and would have acted selfishly against it, but it seemed that their king's father was proud of respect. Kahago took a sip of his drink and continued speaking. Well, let me agree that more skills have a phoenix. Well, they have the healing tears, but unfortunately you did not inherit those ranges, young Potter. One of my closest subordinates, I took a little of the tears that you left in your room. Mr. Phoenix callous while the air in the office was tense. Han squeezed her lips at that piece of information that her husband did not share her and raised her hand in Harry's to calm him, who only aspires a little air before making a gesture to Kahago to continue. Kahago released a mild but continuous sigh. An investigation was made that if you have healing tears in addition to discovering possible anomaly or some unique range in your lineage, because we do not find many but your tears were normal so you did not earn the healing tears. I'm sorry. Tranquilo, Mr. Phoenix, I think there will be other ways in which it can be helpful in order to heal. Also the flames I have, they do not heal the same, right? Yes, but it is always good to have an extra advantage. Your sacred gear on the other hand is unknown. On the one hand, the death of the Vermilion Bird UK is long ago, but now it is sealed in a sacred gear is something very unknown. What I suggest to do is simply train. I will have whatever, sir. Well, my daughter's safety is in her hands. In a month they will both go to the human world in Japan, being more specific. There they will go to school for a while and their Ravel will have the opportunity to found your own nobility. Will you have to work with your magical skills of your phoenix lineage and find out what you can of your sacred gear? I have been understood, young Potter? Yes, sir. I will make sure to take care of Ravel and we will be careful in the human world, Lord. That's fine. Now you will have to study a lot and train a little in your spells before leaving. You still have to be updated so you can work in the human world. I will make some calls to have everything ready in Hokkaido, the city in which they will be, so that the human authorities do not discover what they should. Well, go and start preparing that. In a month they will be going. This goes to you too, Ravel. Yes, father. I assure you that we will be careful, although I don't think there are problems. Also, what could happen to us? Oh, she didn't have to say that. 3 weeks later. Human world, Hokkaido.
Cierre. Closing, 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 closing.
He repeats himself 5 times? Or was it 4 times? I asked confusion. A young man of 20 years of orange hair wearing a purple jacket, white shirt under and black pants. He was painting something with the fingers of his feet on the ground while holding a strange book in his hand. Chisto a little for a moment before reading again in the book and nodded pleased. Yes. They were 5 times. MMRGGGMM. Oh, you have something to say, child? I asked the man, looking aside at a child in his 8 years being tied by rope and having a gag made of rags in his mouth, while crying in silence, observing exactly that it happened in the room. The blood that the guy used as painting on the ground and that painted sinisterly throughout the room belonging to the parents already dead, thanks to the subject who spoke so calmly to the kidnapped child. It was a horrible vision. The Pelinaranja man tilted his head a little before he raised the book he had in his hand. You would know that I would find this book of my ancestors about how it was invoked to demons, and I thought, meh, killing so many no longer had grace. There had to be something great, original, and exciting. How much I dismembered those who end up finding me. I love to kill to a demon and that this kills someone. So you are still alive. What demons will be? Will they appear and greet so casually? Well, let it try. Then the subject turns in himself and then stands in front of the child and smile at him happily. Yash! My name is Yuryu Ryunosuke and I am a demon. MRGGGMM. The boy was even more terrified by the murderer's smile, who after all let out a sigh of annoyance. Does not feel good. I would like my demon to. Whoosh! Water, what happens? I said Yuryu, and I observe how the circle that made this stall in a large wave of light and fog that covered the room. Yuryu even fell to the floor of the surprise before observing how a figure moved from the fog until he was present in the face of a tall man wearing a black wizard suit with a dark red and blue color, loose strands and jumps that made him seem like those of a toad. In his hands with pointed nails a terrible book made, apparently with human skin. The subject looked at Yuryu for a few seconds before smiling with sympathy. Vaya. Then are you who helped me return to life? Well, I don't know. Oh, quiet young. Your little trick has really helped me to recover my physical body. Era. Oh, I see. What, have you killed this child's parents? Yes, that's right. I'm Yuryu Ryunosuke, 20, unemployed. My hobbies are killing and killing. I wanted to invoke a demon to kill this child. Are you a demon? A demon? Oh no, I am not in fact, but the same. I have my ways to help you with your young Ryunosuke hobby. Do you want to help in this? A stellan, sir. Oh, only tell me a blue beard. It is a nickname that I really like. Now let's see what we do with this little one. Oh, I will try my book of prelatai spells. Let's see. Aya. There is something good here. Well ahead. MRGMMGMMG. Splash. That. So young Ryunosuke, how did it seem? Oh men. It was so sugi. We have to do it again and again until we satiate. Do you come with me on my path of the killing? Bluebeard. It would be an honor, young Ryunosuke. Dark times came in Hokkaido. Several weeks later. In other Nautic, other crime scenes have been found on 32nd Avenue. The police have not yet. Click.
Eska.
It is never easy for me not. Makel Harry with great discomfort as he threw control on the couch and took a seat in a chair looking at the void with annoyance. For 2 weeks they had arrived in Hokkaido after an intense month of training and studies, so that Ravel can become familiar with the human world and begin the search for their nobility. Unfortunately, the time was miscalculated and they turn out that they were at the beginning of the summer, which meant vacations for school, and most young people in the city are in activities away from the area where Harry and Ravel resided in the small house well accommodated to prepare for a while ago for the arrival of Ravel and his queen. In total, the search for new members will be a bit complicated of what was expected, but then there was a problem when they just arrived. The city was being raised by a serial murderer. Not a normal one considering what you saw, Harry. That was what Ravel had told him after the horrible incident that had happened to him. Being a newly reincarnating demon, he was expected to fulfill some other tasks such as making contracts, although he was not the only Ravel he had that they had sent some pamphlets in some southern areas of Hokkaido. Ravel had the bad luck of touching him, a young man who liked Lolis, and from there, he became a frequent client, which Harry did not like. But then a week after his arrival, Harry was transported to a location for an invocation that had been done, and what he saw was very horrible. It was a crime scene so atrocious that Harry had to fight not shock and dread. Ravel had to calm him for an entire hour for Harry to better describe what had happened. He was invoking in a massacre scene in a house. Normal Japanese as he could notice, and when he saw so much blood I used a spell of invisibility to avoid being seen, but apparently a creature of some kind of tentacles with an appearance almost similar to a dark blue sea star, and with jaws he attacked before he managed to kill him. Ravel was worried since she knew even well with the violent and radicals that could be some of the demons of some clans. No one would go in a massacre like that without any apparent reason. His only thought was that it was a street devil and a competent one if he was able to have as a relative. The thing is that he attacked Harry. We can't leave that living murderer. We have to do something about it. Harry had affirmed when he knew then that in himself a serial killer was loose in Hokkaido, and that he apparently was related to the supernatural. Ravel had contacted his parents, but to his surprise he could not do it, and immediately determined that whoever the murderer had magical powers that have cut the communication signal throughout the people, and that they definitely know that they are there. It was really serious because if the church got into the matter, they would definitely be guilty simply by being demons. So on the nights Ravel and Harry flew in the sky observing and looking for the murderer, but this was definitely very smart, and for frustration, hate and disgust for both demons, the murderer continued with his death run and increased more the barbarities they made. They were desperate and they didn't know what to do. Harry, I know you are annoying because we have not about these murders. I am also upset, but we have done everything, and I fear a little the voice of Ravel Sacco to Harry of his thoughts, and I take note that instead of the pompous dresses they used in the Phoenix Mansion, I simply used a female button shirt and a red skirt, causing Harry to blush a little in the thought of what was a little. He was recomposed when he thought of the words of the blonde, and thus standing up in front of her, and with doubt, shyness and nervousness hug her carefully, trying to calm him. It seemed that I achieved it a bit, because she released a deep sigh, and then nodded a little. Thank you for the hug.
I'm stressed.
I never expect that I had to deal with these things. Me neither. I expected a little rest time and such. Not this, not again. Again? I have never seen such an event before, but I have been a victim of harassment of a psychopath. Do you find yourself well? Yes, thanks, Harry. Even if I just let you hug me just because I said, Ravel with a red face as I pushed Harry and turned her back, crossing her arm. Harry River nervously at such change in aptitude, but he frowned at the distance. They had to find that murderer once before things worse for them. Later at night, elsewhere in Hokkaido. Swish. Take this unclean beast. Carloman fiercely while cutting another of those terrible creature that had been attacking their hometown in the shadows of the night since a few weeks ago. Being aware of the supernatural world, he saw him as his task to deal with this problem, but even with his abilities it has cost him to be a very difficult task for her. With a great pit from his sword, he left for two to another of those beings and continued cutting before the group he had found were destroyed. She did not waste time and began to run so he could not be captured by the cause of these ills. If it were not by Calawarner this would have been difficult. Even more than normal. Reinforcement. He thought activating one of the few spells that was known. Reinforcement was a spell in which the magical energy covers an object and as its name indicates it reinforces it to make it stronger. A wooden stick could acquire the strength of a steel bara. Stronger, but you have its limits, putting too much to cause your body to be destroyed by excessive reinforcement use. A fair amount had to be used. In total, with the reinforcement I improve his skill, and thus his speed increased since he checked on a bracelet on his wrist another group of those creatures were moving again. He must appreciate that Calawarner gave him that help. Speaking of the aforementioned fallen angel, that is something else. In the middle of a training time Carlemine had found the Calawarner wound and decided to help him, although he already knew from the beginning that he was a fallen angel, but that did not deter it from helping her. He had sworn him for his honor. When I deal with Calawarner, what he discovered was surprised since he had a kind of wound on his right side that contained a tremendous curse that not only physically affected Calawarner but emotionally since Carlemine had to accompany the fallen angel when he had episodes of attacks by pawn or schizophrenia and not much less talk about nightmares. At first the woman was critic one and acidic, but in a month she had warmed her, and a friendship was also formed that Carlemine knew that Calawarner needs her since she could not also get out of bed in the bed. Tragically the curse slowly began to devour her life expectancy at a very dangerous pace, and if it were not because Calawarner was a fallen angel, she would have already died. She using fallen angel magic had blessed her sword and giving her a compass where supernatural essences could be detected to help her in her battle against the creatures that walked on Hokkaido nights and caused death to all part. Boom! What was that? Carlemine murmured and thus accelerated while squeezing his sword in his right hand, and in a matter of minutes I reached the area where his compass indicated supernatural presence and in which it happened of the cause of the sound of the explosion. She observed that there were a large group of those creatures being destroyed by fireworks attacks almost from her age, a blonde girl who shot from her hands flares of fire-orange fire, and a hairy boy who threw red and black fire from one hand while with the other it seemed that he invoked a white shield stopping the attacks of acids and other things. Carlemine used the compass and discovered thanks to Calawarner's teachings that these two young people had more face-to-face than supernatural, so they were obviously not human. Carlemine hides a little watching the pair. Harry, we must end them immediately. I will attack in front and you behind. Correct, Ravel. Appearance. Harry exclaimed by deactivating his attacks and in a swirl of energy disappeared from his place and then appeared behind the whole group of grotesque creatures. Harry's magical power itself had changed. I could no longer do all the spells that made when I was human. Spells such as lumos or action were difficult to do, and apparently transfiguration was impossible for its person, although it was never so good in it. On the one hand, even without the need to use wand I needed to name its spells for concentration. Name the appearance is an example, although it was different from that of the magicians with proof and failure. It was like a normal appearance, but I did not have that horrible effect that it had, but had the weakness that only 10 or 12 meters around it could be done. It was impossible to even teleport from one city to another as it was usual. He extended his two hands forward. Fire. Flame Phoenix. I exclaim at the same time, Ravel invoking burning flames combined with demonic power of wind, creating a sea of flames that choco the creatures while behind the same Harry attacko with a potential spell of fire which caused both attacks to collide with their victims in the media, making them ashes in seconds. Soon both young people left their attacks to breathe a little for the energy expenditure, but then Carlemine noticed one of the creatures out of the earth and his sharp mouth spit a large peak full of liquid that was surely poisonous and threw himself towards Ravel while she turned her back on her. Carlemine would not let such an impon stroke. Ravel, startled, was turned to see a chestnut girl dressed in aura killing one of those evil creatures who intended to harm him while I was distracted. You saved me. Wait, who are you? My name is Carlemine and I have been looking for the cause of these creatures plus masses murders. Seeing that they were being attacked I can assume that they are not the causes, but I know they are not human. So talk, who are you? Several minutes later. I see. Are they demons? First time I meet one. They look decent, but I really ask them not the causes of all these ills? I can say that they do not lie, and although I am not so connected to the supernatural world, how fragile is the peace between fractions? This obviously happens by force. Supernatural, but of the class it is extremely very different. The dead number has already exceeded 67 people in more than 3 weeks, and the number remains increased. I do not have any kind of feeling against demons, so I will accept working with you if they help me with a problem. Oh well, do you look classified and do you know these lands better than us? An alliance is the best. What is this work specifically? Dash. Well, 20 minutes later, Ravel looked at Calawarner. Calawarner looked at Ravel. Harry trembled a little nervous. Carloman cleaned her sword. Juquet took a nap in his sacred gear. All were silent. And the situation could not be more tense. Carloman had no problems with demons. She was an orphan girl, then everything she learned from the world was a self-taught, so she treated everyone as the same. Therefore she did not mind asking Ravel for help in case she had a way to cure a friend of her. What happened to be a
Fallenangel.
Of course, I tell him when she took the two demons to her house, and because as Ravel had accepted her pride, she dictated that she had to finish her side of the commitment. Or he was seeing Calawarner thinking if he should refuse. The logic told him that he should refuse since he was a fallen angel who had to treat, but his mind was still moving for 1,000 thinking about a gain he could get. Harry was nervous about silence. Calawarner still sweating, moaning with pain, discomfort throughout his body and with horrible chills traveling his body from time to time. He did not take away his gaze of the demon that appeared suddenly and that Carloman supposedly affirmed that I was going to heal him. And the aforementioned only cleaned his sword as if nothing, as if there were no two jurisdiction and that one has the key to save the other. Carloman was very simple in things. I didn't see anything bad in the situation. Harry raised his hand as if it were a schoolboy. Dash? Well, why not? Harry. Yes, Ravel? Dash. Be quiet. I am thinking. Ow. Ok. Enough. I have to ask. Carloman. Why? Demons here, perhaps, are the causes of those deaths. No, Calawarner, when I brought you here, use the compass to monitor the supernatural energy source in my town. Energy is dispersed but not connected with these demons, and since there is no similarity, definitely whatever it is happening, it has nothing to do with demons. That, why? You brought them? Because I'm not a doctor. They have powers beyond what I can do. Maybe they have a way of helping you. Yand. For demon? Madness. In truth. Madness.
I prefer die.
Calawarner, you will die at the end of everything, suffer a curse that is attacking your life expectancy. No organ, no muscle, no bone, none of that is your life expectancy, and that will ensure that you have a slow and horrible death that even with a healthy body will not be able to cure. I don't know exactly, but I don't see how I could help you. External help could be beneficial. Joder. Fuck. This is a damn mock.
Pride. No.
I can believe this. Making a Calawarner grimace knew that the situation for her was bad. That damn being there was apparently a power in his wound that little by little began to eat his vital energy, killing her in the worst way. According to his opinion, to survive he needed someone with a remarkable sacred gear type healing, or someone who knows senjutsu or altering his body, eliminating the curse and restoring his strength of life. The latter is easier since he could already assume, because the demon in front of him looked at her with such attention, and that option, although easy, was the most horrible. Then Ravel spoke suddenly as he sighed and knelt on the side of Calawarner's bed. I will try to magical spells. Harry, come to help me. The aforementioned is confused because he does not know any healing spell, but then remember that he has his phoenix flames that can be a healing power. He had tried before but were not strong, and in some cases they occurred in truth. He knelt on the side of the demon blonde, who began to throw demonic spell discomfort that a demon is playing. A red fire with black emerged in the hand of Harry, and Calawarner could not avoid moaning unintentionally at the sudden touch and the heat that traveled part of his body that he experienced at that time. Harry blushes madly. Oh God. Oh. Harry very self-conscious. The truth is that since he became a demon he has noticed a high debauchery of things. Oh, the things I end up listening at night in the Phoenix Mansion when he went to the bathroom or went to the kitchen to eat or take some. He felt uncomfortable approaching with Riser. The guy was... Oh God, oh. Thinking all that made Harry shout for the lack of decency, although he never said anything like that. They were demons after all. Nightly cochinadas apparently was normal thing. Harry concentrates his energy with the thought and desire to bring healing to this fallen angel, and the results were noted as Calawarner's paleness began to fade, but then she suddenly arched to release a strong scream of pain while spitting a little blood and fell back into bed breathing with difficulty. Harry trembled with surprise. Oh no. Very sorry. I didn't want this. I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. Worry, I thought this would happen. But, well, I have another method wants him to try it, Angel Fallen? I ask, but a little disappointed by the result. The young phoenix, Calawarner, took him a little calm, although he remained as bad things. It was not the big thing in truth, since it was a small gap. From this bag a glass bottle with a white liquid that Harry and Calawarner recognized as phoenix tears. Ravel without hesitation gave him to take healing tears to the fallen angel, but like the above the curse seemed to harm him. Calawarner's body was well in a certain sense, but his life expectancy was being deeply affected. He had not been to heal that. Unless, if you die then, I can be reborn with a partially new body without free of curse. You will have that becoming a demon. I knew that was the only way. No, he should and had to warn Lord Azazel about that person, that being who took Nekamar Nidai, and that caused that curse to begin with. His instincts told him that damn person was a real danger, and to pass that information he needed to be fine and alive. She puts her gaze on the demon of blonde hair with intensity. Why did you do it? Sensillo, there is a serial murderer out there in this city. Forces of heaven or the Yuki could come and blame us for these deaths. Our deaths could cause a catastrophe among the fractions of that, I am sure. We have tried everything to catch the murderer, but we only cannot do it. Not alone. For them we need to work together to catch him before the situation gets worse. But, why did not make you a servant of mine? Yes, consider that, but reincarnating a fallen angel could be a problem. In Kabio he planned to heal in another way, and then as gratitude you would fight with us. When this happened and the external forces knew that this would cause this serious, the witness of who was the deceased, that was not us. Then the supernatural world listened, they heard that. Demons saved a city, yes. She was a daughter of the Phoenix House. She managed to avoid a problem and caught a monster. I work with a fallen angel. Lucifer-sama, willingly thank you for ensuring the fragile piece of fractions. I do not expect in essence all those words, but my reputation will begin, and all because I capture a murderer being a demon. You're really cunning. Well, yes, I am a demon after all, but I confuse. My queen wanted to help you. He said that we owed Carloman to help you, and then... Meh, I don't see the problem, said Ravel, choosing his shoulder without giving him importance, while Harry smiled nervously, since it was partly true Ravel's statement. For while the young phoenix thought otherwise, the truth is that her options in curing Calawarner, it was really true, but it was also a way to demonstrate that its actions was not hostile or vicious. Yes, its explanation made it seem to act by a cunning plan, but I really consider helping in a way which would not bring discontent to the fallen angel. In the end it didn't matter, I could not cure her normally. In the end it is time to relive it. Ravel looked. Thus everyone was silent, waiting for Calawarner's answer. Carloman knelt to the same side in bed that the fallen angel rested, with her sword next to her, looking at the woman with black hair with a solemn and guilty expression. She who had promised by her honor to help her guest had failed and felt miserable. Harry, on the other hand, frowned at the ground when he found out the evil pieces system and Ravel's idea to reincarnate other beings to turn them into their servants. Got angry deeply, since he believed it was a system to convert humans and others into slaves, but Ravel commented a little more about the situation, that although the whole system looks in the end there is a free will for the new demons. Perhaps she can use cunning and a bit of words, but she never caused her future servants. She already learned how delicate the matter was. The matter, she would look for her. I swear, and Harry slightly believed him, but still the current situation was not one that he liked. Thus, the two demons and the human patiently waited for the response of the fallen angel, and then it is finally expected. I accept, Calawarner replied, dropping a tear of one of his eyes. It was not for his life that I accept, but to live to give the information of his last mission to Mr. Azazel. His loyalty was such that he was willing to sacrifice himself to be, for the last time, helping his great leader. He will have to get used to being a demon, but mentally swears. He swears that he would become strong enough to go and hunt that damn being that caused all these problems first. I promise you that you will always have those who will trust. I assure you that as your king I will take care of you. Murmuró Ravel, looking at the tear. That Calawarner drops. Oh, it was difficult to be a king. Thinking so deep and trying to find solutions to so many really problems will be a martyrdom. Luckily Harry was good to make coffee. That calmed her. Ravel got up and created a fire sphere in his hand before choosing her, compressing her, while she was observed a little confusion from Carloman and Harry. On the other hand, Calawarner only looked at the impassive blonde girl, already resigned from her destiny. Ravel began to explain. Curses of these classes disappear when the affected dies. If he revive it as a demon with this curse, he will continue to affect even being a demon. I have to kill her and then revive her. Ravel? But, wait, dash. What do you want, girl? I will do it. That? Because I promised for my honor that I was going to help Calawarner. I have failed in that, but it is to kill her to help him. Then I want to be the one who stains the blood, but I also ask for a favor. Please. Become his servant too. Carloman said, surprising everyone so much for his desire to be the one who murders Calawarner, but also his voluntary desire to become a demon. Harry was the one who understood the reason behind that. Penance, as he had said previously, he had failed in his desire to help Calawarner, and if for her to save it is to become a demon, then to settle her debt, her ruling, she had to become a demon and thus be on hand with her partner. Harry had a life lasts so much with the Dursleys, and even in Hogwarts, I sacrifice a lot to get things in return. He had to endure the jealousy and stupidity of Ron to have a close friend, and it was the same with Hermione. Forgive it was a sacrifice to have such good friends. It was one of his penance that had to deal with as a human and magician. And he could understand what Carloman wanted. That, Ravel. Leave it. She will be a great ally. That. Okay. Carloman proceeds, said Ravel, putting aside, allowing Carloman to stand up and take her sword, putting it on the heart of Calawarner, that she threw a soft look for once, although she was still sick, and subsequently closed her eyes waiting for the end. With a rapid Carloman movement it stabs Calawarner's heart. She grew up of pain for a moment but resisted to twist, and within a few seconds she stayed still. Harry looked elsewhere, totally disturbing by presence of death. Ravel closed her eyes, knowing well that part of her innocence died, and Carloman released some tears, the same because her hands took a life even when that life would return eventually. Suddenly a reddish-black smoke came out of the wound of Calawarner's body, which caused chills to the other three young people before fading without a trace. It was official, the curse was undone. It's time, Ravel, Harry said in a low voice, looking at the ground. Ravel quickly brought a case from his dimensional pocket which contained all his other evil pieces. She medis for the situation, for a moment moving their pieces before taking two pieces and thus having them in their two hands by pressing them on the breasts of Carloman and Calawarner. Demoniac power resumbo in the air, and Ravel began to recite, "Two in my name, Ravel Phoenix, your Carloman. I who resurrect you in this land like my servant and renaisses like a devil. You me, night with a new life, Alzate." Carloman received the piece of the night, who quickly entered his body. While Ravel was happening his attention to Calawarner's body, and put a piece in his chest of the angel's body. Fallen. "Two in my name, Ravel Phoenix, your Calawarner. I who resurrect you in this land like my servant and renaisses like a devil. You me, Alphil with a new life, Alzate." He exclaimed with strength, Ravel, and finally the two girls shone for a while before Calawarner's body sitting, and began breathing, while the fallen angel trembled a little before releasing some coughing, already knowing that he was once again alive. Ravel and Harry took note of the new demons that emerged on the back of both the fallen angel and the human girl. There was only one detail, but with Calawarner one of his wings still remains as that of a fallen angel, a sign of miscegenation which is now. Carloman Chilopane while dropping her sword. She had forgotten that she was sanctified by Calawarner, so even when her handle had no power of light, even the aura affected her. The Aspatican woman did not give importance to that, because later she threw himself and hugged Calawarner as she began to cry. Once fallen angel and now hybrid looked at the empty in shock for a moment before the young chestnut and awkwardly gave him palmaditas on the back. Harry smiled the same when he saw Calawarner well. He knew that things would be different with the two new additions to Ravel's nobility, and more with Calawarner, who will have hard to get used to being a demon and having changed his side, but Harry expected her not to suffer much because of it. The same still had a hard time accepting being a demon and knew that for Calawarner he must be a bit difficult. Ravel smiled a little tense. He could already imagine the criticisms he will receive for having reincarnated an angel fallen in his nobility, but the truth was worth a cumin. He felt a sense of pride in having won two new classmates, and he had confidence that things would go well in the future. She turned her gaze to the only window of the room, seeing the moon in the sky. She frowned darkly. This was the beginning of a battle against that monster that terrified Hokkaido, and now that they had allies was time to intensify their search and finish the situation once and for once, all before the other fractions take into account what was happening elsewhere. I will reach the power to free the most powerful beast, and thus we will cause so many deaths that it will attract God's attention so that he can spit his face. Because of her my dear Jean was burned as a witch and swear for all the dark ones that will make God of the Bible for her evil. I swear ha 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 ha. Come on Ryunosuke. Let's bring more blasphemy to this world. Ha 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 ha. Ire. The subject who called himself a blue beard was called to the sanity with the so-called Yuryu Ryunosuke, who laughed very happy. Death, blood and gore being both was around him while a large circle was marked on the ground. Extending his hands magical energy was sent directly to the circle, and he began to throb as if he was trying to leave. I needed a little more energy, but with a little more death it will be enough. It will be enough to call the incarnate terror. With a malicious laugh he was anxious for all the death he would bring. The final battle was approaching. We'll continue. I just have to say that this chapter gave him a great pile. The next one will be the great battle. Harry will show his sacred gear and his ability. Juke will finally speak and perhaps a bit of fan service. In total I hope you liked it. Toaneo 07. Harry Potter does not belong to me just like high school DxD. Harry X Ravel X Harem. The harem is made up of Ravel, Isabella, Carlamine, Shualon, Sikvera Ages, Benia, Valerie Teeps, Kyome Abe, Calawarner and Ika Kiryu. New sacred gears, new characters, new sagas and such will appear, therefore in itself this FIC will not fully enter the fee. Now I ask you, public, want more girls to join the harem? The options are as follows. The 2 girls of the Kendo Club of the Kuo Academy or some OC, maybe Fate Stay Night and or Danganronpa or Sekirei or Middled. The series used in this FIC as basis for the OCS are the following: Sekirei, Danger Rampa and Tsukiheim/Fate Stay Night, Naciverse. I repeat them and notify them in advance. Only the appearance, personality, more or less altered history, power and such characters will be used, not the sagas of the series, so this would not be a multi-crossover, such as with Danganronpa. Justin, I have only seen some videos and read wiki, so if someone does not know who Nagito Kamita is, well, and there is no need to find out all the series, but it will not be my creation but a basis of a character of another series already made, because I don't believe that Gary Stu bored. I must also clarify that I find out that Ravel had another name without a name, so not to get into mess since in anterior chapter only mention Riser and Ruvel, I will tell that Ravel only has those 2 brothers. Excuse me if the chapter does not tailor them, but I hope that if I do. Saga 1 Battle in Hokkaido. To the distance, hidden base in Europe. MMM? Jean? What happens to you? Dash. I don't know, Sieg Kuin. I feel as if somewhere something horrible happens and I feel that I have to do with it. I don't know, it's confusing. Of course it is nothing. Come, we have to train that. In a couple of years we have to act and meet the goals of Chow Chow and the hero fraction. Yes, you are right, we will better train. Although that feeling keeps bothered. Hokkaido 2 days later. I sent him the information that he wanted to give to Mr. Azazel. He would take time to reach him because what prevents communication to the people is very powerful, but it was made for demons. I who are still a fallen angel part, then I could find a gap. I hope it happens anyway. I hope, sir. Azazel read the message even when I betrayed him Herschel Calawarner while taking a little soup that Carlamine gave him. He had already spent 2 days since he became a demon, and at that time he has spent resting and getting used to his new life as a hybrid demon. It was not as different as a fallen angel at the beginning, but I already noticed how it was uncomfortable to invoke his spear of light. The feeling was as if he were grabbing something hot, but at the latest he was not harmful, and by himself he was only able to use demonic power, and his energy of fallen angel climbed a little, but he divided the same with demonic power. In total it became stronger than it was, and everything that became a Ravel. For a moment he thought about killing those present and leaving, but the idea was very cruel even for her and those boys. But her now proclaimed self-proclaimed Carlamine. They only tried to help her with the cunning words of Ravel, so she frowned and thought. In the same way she continued with thought, only that focusing on fleeing this group, and deduced that such a decision was a very terrible hunted by the fallen angels and the angels just for being in exile, and also their former companions. Will seek to kill her simply because he turned his back on his heritage, and even worse the side effects that are acquired when transforming into an exiled demon. No, the best option was to stay with Ravel and the others. The Phoenix were not the best-known family in the supernatural world, but it had their share of fame. They were fucking rich, they were strong with their powers of Phoenix, and it was not an abusive clan. Calawarner had her win, so I partially accepted her situation. The only thing he had left was ashamed in how he was no longer a fallen angel, and had separated from his beloved race. It was a shame, but she still had one more reason to live. Kill the cause of your situation. I will kill that damn thing. I will kill her. I swear to kill her. Calawarner thought with a grimace of ferocity for a few seconds before calming down and keep eating, thinking about the current situation and waiting for Carloman with the other children to be lucky today in their advances to find that unfortunate serial murderer. Carloman had shown that she really knew her city since she had explored the most little-known and unknown places of Hockade's soft pampering until late at night. As it was day, Carloman and Ravel were moving between the streets investigating anything suspects while Harry, who was still a bit disturbed with what he saw, was Calawarner company. It should be said that the situation is a bit uncomfortable. I hope that you like the food, Harry said with a shy smile. He was in charge of giving Ravel food, who tells him that he had a good talent for it. Harry had to learn to cook since he was 5 years. Mrs. Weasley never let her approach the kitchen since the time she spent in the burrow. It was with the Phoenix that Harry was able to do some cuisine of her own, and among some mistakes she had made very good own recipes. As such, Ravel liked that the Felling Wave was dinner so much because it made him feel good, because they were just the two who lived alone in that house in Hokkaido, so Harry being the only one who knew how to cook his task. It is very good. I am surprised that a demon knows how to cook, as I have known that demons have a lot of servants, right? Well, but in the Phoenix Mansion, all nobility servants are given a high treatment, but less than family members on the part of the demons, although they are not really many. The Great War left so bad to the demons that the Mawajuka Beelzebub created the so-called demonic homunculi, or known as demons. These are artificial beings that only serve a demon as puppets. Really, it is something that I do not like, but they are really helpful. Homunculos? I didn't know that. I thought they had their servants as complete demons. As I said, the Great War I leave us with low number, so things are very different from what is expected. We have, but they are a little different. They are more demons that are not noble, who work for the Phoenix and other clans, vassals and soldiers really, but in total their work is more than directing than doing tasks. You will ask yourself, to direct what? Well, homunculos, as are a bit more than puppets, are not perfect, so they need instructions and such to function. The demons of that class in the Phoenix Mansion are guards, secretaries, head of servants, tutors, headquarters, cleaning, and etc., etc., etc. I see. I had never known it. It is something unimportant. The families of demons that have servants who are purely of non-noble demons, the Gremory, the Bale, and the Citri, are one of the many families that have that privilege of having pure real servants, since it is a sign of status, considering that, well, yes, their relationship with the Four Mao and the family who is the king of the underworld on the side of demons. I see that the thing is a bit heavy than expected. I'm not a genius, barely and Rallo on the average, but I had to fight to learn all these things from the Ravel breast, so that when in an event in Underworld Ravel I have to show his nobility, he does not end up embarrassing her in things she should know. Fiestas of rich children? Oh devils, that's bad. In our land things are simpler. If we wanted to party, we went to the house of one of our classmates, we had a drink and ready, we do everything, ha ha ha. I remember the stories that my squad superior of about 50 years ago Lewin about the feasts of Mr. Azazel and Mr. Love. It was epic and glorious parties. Nobody had to be false with others, and we could have great liberation, haha. Well, actually there was a rule on the part of Mr. Barakil, Shemhazai, Kokabil, and Penemu put for the holidays and meetings that should be met. Do not do kachanadas, that were what they said. Kuf, cough. Harry choked with the air itself and fell to the ground for it while trying to get his tongue out of his throat. Calawarner released a mocking giggle in the face of such a performance. In part did not lie in his words. The rule was more than nothing indecent in minor meetings, and that was due to maintaining some decorum among the fallen angels. Everyone could bed with whom I wish, and that was not frowned upon. Their old race were decaying. It was the worst that were among the fractions, so reproduction was a very important issue for fallen angels. The demons was the strongest force between the three fractions. The evil peace system helped a lot in that. According to the rumors, it was said that the demons had 2 users of sacred gear types Longinus, although it was not so serious since it was learned that they were part of the nobleness of young demons, but such information was terrible in truth. They also had from their side to the Blaze Meteor Dragon Tannen, and to cause more terror side was Pride Dragon Rahab, being really bored of Tannen, being a great dragon along with the force of the old Mao Leviathan, a great dragon capable of invoking the power of chaos and the darkness of the sea in his powerful screams. Adding those with monsters like the Mao, or what are part of elites and undefeated winners of the rating game as Bediza Baden, Roygun Belphegor and Diehauser Belial among others, so in total their strength in general was tremendous. In total demons are the strongest. The skies were in part weak since the angels have it difficult because they could not easily reproduce but compensate that with having millions and millions of followers around the world. Each city, even in who knows where, it has at least one church or a believer in which the angels worship, and that gives strength to the system imposed by the sky, and with an army of armed humans to the teeth with weapons to kill fallen angels and demons. 2 or 3 sacred gear Longinus users on their side, and they also had the powerful 9-head dragon Kazuryu on their side. That he had the power along with the 50s dragons and the thunder dragon Druk, who was known for having a great power of lightning and thunder, also that possessing power at the level of the 50s dragons. Why these dragons are not in that group? May is true. And while the fallen angels had by their side to the user of divine devanding, although this was a demon so their affiliation was doubtful, and Canis Lycaon along with the strength of the Gigantes dragon Fafnir in addition to some other users of sacred gear was not enough. Well, if it is calculated, the fallen angels are bad and desperate. Therefore, the issue of reproduction is important in the culture of fallen angel, since the descendants of these relations will be the force that will protect their homeland from their enemies. Of course they had rules to comply with. But why does it have to do with, do you know? Your own things, who do you know? Maybe by accident you end up in a sexy situation, hee. But, do not be bad of my old homeland. The parties we had were alone of fun, jokes and drinks, simple things that humans still do when they are, what is the name of? Yes, adolescence, innocent things, but of course that behind closed doors with the couple of the moment it is already different. Obvious that things happen, but Lord love you and Lord Shemhazai expect some discretion and moderation for all. We are a species and we have to show that we are not a degenerate fraction as God called us before the beginning of the war, and that it was one of the reasons why the Grigori organization with the pacifism of Mr. Azazel. In total we had a lot of clowns, but we are not perverted beings as the Bible so eloquently details us. Except when we tempt some than other angels. I have never done it, but hey, one listens to things from time to time. This is so complicated. And I feel so traumatized. Oh yes, now that I think about it, well, as you said, have you just made a demon 2.5 months ago? Well, what do you mean that with your age you were still a virgin, right? Calawarnerly asked while Harry deeply blushed by such an indecent question of the hybrid demon, who smiled victorious to Harry's expression. Considering that he would have to live with this boy with his king and his friend Caballero, he might get a little fun at the coast of the green-eyed demon. Calawarner took her spoon and slowly took her to her mouth, so that she would later start licking it with her tongue in an erotic way. All that to be seen by Harry, who dropped her mouth slowly by the shock. Then accidentally Calawarner dropped his dish with soup in his white shirt, given by Carloman, which made him release a groan of surprise. I wouldn't. Fuck that, I wouldn't. Please, I must take it off. I could cold. He will do it. Harry will definitely do it with a work of art and not mistake, because he saw the sky in front of his eyes. Perfect breasts appeared in front of his eyes. Not very large and not very small, that luckily or unfortunately was covered by a black lace support. A thin figure with a hip that betrayed pure femininity, and 3 details called Harry's attention. The first was that Calawarner had a piercing in his nape of Harry, who made him ignore everything else for a moment. Calawarner. That scar. Scar? Which? Oh, that scar. Any trace of Calawarner's humor left when I look what would be a ugly mark on the right side under its bosom. The brand in a certain way seemed like a tattoo of a cartoon being looked from afar, but closely if you touch well you could notice the burned veins that formed the one that was the place that contained a curse. Calawarner's expression darkened deeply by reminding that damn being that caused him so many problems, but then feels a hand on his shoulder, and sees Harry give him a compressive smile. I know how it feels, a scar that demonstrates your survival. A scar you hate. It is hard at first, but will eventually end up getting used to it. So if you need help for something or talk about it, I am the one for it. After all, I understand the feeling. How can you say that? How can you know the feeling that I will have every see that this scar see and remember my humiliating defeat against that damn thing that attacked me? Do you know what I feel? More of what you think. Calawarner solemn Harry comment by moving his bangs, leaving his beam scar, his curse and lost mark. He lost his parents for it. Lost a normal life both in his childhood and in Hogwarts, and was also a reminder of those he had lost and would not see more. Ron, Hermione, Ginny, Luna, Neville, Sirius, Tonks, Remus, and many others that we'll ever see again. It was a brand that reminded him of what he lost. He understood Calawarner a little better than anyone at that time. I really know what I speak, Calawarner. That scar is a sign of what happened to you, and I know that you will not easily forget it. I only tell you that If you have any problem or you need in some way my help, I will always be there. Dash. Thank you. Calawarner whispered, a little moved by Harry's sincere words. She aspired to calm down and carefully sew much her scar by eating the discomfort for a second before feeling her texture. Already satisfied with that, she swears to herself that in truth, she would find what this mark caused her and kill her without hesitation. She then already calmed the position in which Harry was. She was close to him for what smiled maliciously before grabbing Harry and bringing him closer to his person while the raven let out a sound of surprise. Already having his mutually playing the Calawarner breasts smiled with coquetry via words. Mr. Potter. It shows that he loves to flatter the girls. Perhaps it will be, what do you want to jump above after I told him my stories? Oh, Mr. Potter, he didn't know he was so perverted. Why, do not digos that may be malicious.
Egois.
I have good news, we find the track of the serial killer. At night we will leave and then in the worst moment Carloman entered the room talking with joy for his finding and eager to share it with his fellow nobility, but then discovered them in a compromised position and Carloman being a bit lover of romantic and spicy reading a little more than usual the situation. Blushing deeply proceeded to leave the room. Sorry. They didn't know they were going to do the samba in bed. There are condoms in the bathroom, but they are not mine, so I don't know how long they are there. Be careful. No, Carloman. He hopes that it is not what you think. Harry scared shouts separating from Calawarner, and proceeded to run to chase the gentleman to deny her rare words, and hoped that Ravel would not listen to her because her instincts told her what bad things would happen if it happened. Already a little later Calawarner was alone in the room, and without any sorrow I launch a laugh at the air while the expressions that Harry and Carloman showed. It was so hilarious, Fuck with what he thought a while ago. Being with these boys may be fun. And teaching the young Potter will be a great way to spend time. She lay on her bed and continued laughing, although at a lower level. Although they increased again when I hear screams of Ravel furies and screams of fright of Harry in the room. Ha 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 ha. I will definitely have fun with this group. Later, midnight. It's time for my masterpiece, the final offense for God for everything he has done. In how he turned his back on the holy Doncella Jean. As I let her die in burning. How I do not help her. How she did nothing in the offenses that I made myself in life, and how I ignore the earth to God itself. Death. I shout the so-called blue beard, or actually a part of the spirit of the Gilles de Rice. His story was well known, but a summary of this would be that it was a gentleman who looked with the famous Joan/Jean d'Arc, or generally known as Juana de Arco, the woman who looked and tried to free from her country of the war, and that in the end she was betrayed by her beliefs and burned in the bonfire indicated as a vial which Gilles went crazy for such an event and spent the rest of her life. That even mentioning them made sorry to vomit his listeners. At one point he met an expert magician of the black arts and gave Gilles a gift, being the Book of Spells of Prelatai, which he had the power to invoke horos, demonic creatures of another dimension, which allowed Gilles, semi-physicist given by Uriu Ryunosuk, who had made a bad invocation circle that allowed Gilles to recover physical form, although it was not perfect since he needed a continuous flow of energy that acquired by killing humans. And now with his stable power he was going to launch his strongest weapon, that would be a spit on the god who hated so much. Pechenglui mglw naf uganagel ftain murmuro Gilles of Rice holding forward his Book of Spells of Prelatai. And when the last song ended, a kind of fog to receive your latest creation. Elsewhere. Swy wyach. Tuk. Dash. Figan. See cool. Murmuro Uriu Ryunosuk while falling dead on the floor with a smile of happiness and a spear of light in its stomach. Calawarner, being the deceased, made a grimace because even with the efforts to cure him from Ravel and Harry was still a little tired of the curse he suffered. As Carloman had said, they had found a clue about the serial killer and managed to catch him when he intended to attack a group of children only at night, but it turns out was that they were objects created with magic by Harry, and finally managed to kill the monster. But they had a problem. He has almost no magical power or anything. How was he able to invoke those things? There must be a logical explanation. Ravel? Maybe it's someone else's work. Maybe? After all, I use an invocation seal that I call Harry, right? The probability of that is very high. It could be explained because the communication signs are sealed, but I don't know, if it were another demon would have contacted me, but a street demon? It can be in the same way. We have to look exactly that they happen. Prepare, my dear servants, this will be boom, splash, slowly, as if they feared what they would see. The two demons together with the other two hybrids slowly turned their heads, and from their position in the lonely part of a park they looked like a purple seal appeared in the air on the river of Hokkaido, being a kind of calamar/sea star/nightmare monster with large spikes, sharp teeth and large metal cutter tentacles that whipped everywhere, causing true chaos. Calawarner, Ravel, Harry, and Carlemine stared at such monstrosity with impassive faces for a good time. Difficult. Truly difficult. And we have to face that? True? It's that or kill us all before we even have help. But how? I think it's time for Harry to display his sacred gear. Yes, I think he expects how. Harry, that we have not entered that theme was because you had a lot to learn in the Phoenix Mansion, but look at me for a moment. Look at the city. Look at that and think exactly how bad we are. You have to activate your sacred gear and see what your ability is. It may be helpful. Wesp, this boy has a sacred gear? Oh, what does it do? We don't know, Calawarner. That is the problem. He owns in his being to the Vermilion Bird UK, but apart from the power of fire, I cannot do that. He can do the most. I have never heard of that creature before. That is the least. Harry, is time for you to show sacred gear. I say, Ravel, while burning the body of Ryunosuke's body, and then looking at his queen waiting for future results. The young Potter did not know what to say about such order from the Phoenix girl. Knew that he had such a juke sealed inside, but the truth had tried to ignore him because he made him feel abnormal and hated that he was taking a lot with his powers and being a demon to add the load of a sacred gear. It bothered him deeply, but Ravel had a point. A creature of out who knows how to be strong enough for them, and if they were lucky, the power of sacred gear of Harry could be a great help. Biting his lips, Harry nodded. Okay, I will try to activate it. What do I have to do? There are different ways of activating it. Imagine the person or being or whatever is the strongest. A sacred gear is activated and operates with the user's feelings. The will, the desire, the determination is the key to that power. You just have to explode that emotion and sacred gear will appear. Look, even with that, maybe this takes time, so I suggest that he stays here with Carlemine. What do you say, Ravel? You're right. That monster has to be stopped as it gives. Come on, Calawarner. Harry Alcanzanos, when he contacted your sacred gear with that, said Ravel and Calawarner deployed their respective wings, one of Firebird and the other being wings of two classes, one being from Devil and the other a fallen angel. Both flew air to the direction of the monster in the river, leaving behind Carlemine and Harry alone. The Raven made a grimace for pressure and remained silent, thinking about several things before feeling a Carlemine and turned to see what he wanted. I don't see you motivated, Harry. Alone. What bothers you? It makes me highlight and? Harry sounds like that sounds very silly. I do not know you totally, but I can say that you are a good, reliable boy and good intentions. Even being a demon, I have the feeling that I can trust you. So I know that you will achieve this, but tell me why exactly it bothers you so much. I don't know. I just don't know. I was always pointed out as a weird bug for everyone, and at a time when I thought I would be with people who would treat me normally, but I was wrong. It was worse. It is horrible as everyone points to your defects and your gifts because when you do not meet the expectations of others. It is extremely horrible. It sounds horrible. I don't know how exactly happened to you, but Harry, do you hate being special? Is that what bothers you? Yes, I hate it deeply. Then you are a fool. Harry, being special is nothing bad. Makes others notice us and allows us to interact with others. We are all special in our way. But I feel as if everyone loves me for my gifts. I feel that Ravel only made me his servant because I am special. He only loved me for my power and the fame that will bring him. You are wrong about that, Harry, because for me, I think what he does is how kind and humble you are. You are a great boy, Harry, and Ravel-y in that in you. I can have known them only 2 days, but I can notice how she looks at you as someone special, but for her how special you are is simply because they are. Carlemine said with a soft voice while seeing in the distance like Calawarner and Ravel fired projectiles to the creatures, but she didn't even bother. Ravel threw large flares of fire towards the creature and Calawarner. He invoked light spears, but even with all that they could not hurt the creature. Harry saw that eventually they would be injured or worse dead and needed him to eliminate this threat. He squeezed his impotent fist at his feelings and such, but then felt Carlemine's soft hand in his and looked up to see how she smiled with kindness that captive Harry. You are special, Harry, you are a great boy, and I can feel that we are not going to be with you just because you are special for power, but because it is you. Come on, show us, show how special you are with your determination. Show Ravel what she sees in you, your will. Fight to show that you are special, because even with great power you remain the same shy, Magigato and soft Harry Potter that I can call an ally from now on forever as our life as demons. Show it, Harry. Switch. Catch. Yeah. I will do it. Carlomine's words lit a fire in Harry that he thought she didn't have. It was the same determination and value that once she had when Voldemort won. The will to overcome its limits and make it impossible. Such is enough for the awakening of a sacred gear. Harry hated highlighting, being privileged, being pointed out, but as he has done before, if it is for the sake of others, then he would forget his sorrows and acts, but this time it was different. This time he did not care that it was special because he really was a good person and that was enough. The great confidence that Carlomine showed him gave him the strength to get out of his auto-OD and show his determination. Thus he exploded his power and called his sacred gear Avon, my sacred gear. Respond to my call, Juke. Finally, you have heard my voice, little chick. Let's show our power together, in the river in Hokkaido, in this city. Demonsti. Grito Gillis with psycho fury while he was inside the gigant horrors that I invoke. He had noticed the arrival of demons and even tried to kill one that seemed to make a pact but escaped, and to catch them before they escaped had made a limited field throughout the city, cutting any type of escape or communication. And these demons were there fighting against their crying Muke unclean creatures. Dashed it up is that it disgusts me. I say, a little agitated Ravel, firing without stopping bursts of fire from his hands, and even use of each other barriers of less demonic power, but the creature in addition to being large had regenerative powers along with a phoenix, and his tentacles were very sharp and fast wounds of that creature. She flew a little back while Calawarner threw another set of spears of light before going back to tired dash. This is bad, those tentacles are very malicious. If I receive more of those insurance attacks I fainted me. You can think of something, Calawarner? This has to be our worst enemy and our first battle is definitely very bad. A Calawarner help? Not an unfavorable comment. Tay, what did you expect? I have been in the last and now I am fighting against a monster. Ugh, I don't think I can fight for a lot. So we launch a combined attack with everything. Luckily, if we attack him in the center we kill the invoker of this damn thing. Okay. Come on. There will die damn demons of the Aberno. Gigant horrors attacks with everything. Shit. Hysterically Gillis de Rice from inside his creature, and 100 tentacles that took sharp forms threw themselves towards Calawarner and Ravel, but the blonde phoenix took her hybrid servant and backed up towards the shore of the river, dodging the rapids and deadly attack, even managed to give her which they left her breathe a little badly, but she was quick to quickly. Both saw the creature and posed their hands in front, concentrating all their demonic power, part of the fallen angel and fire power at one point before shooting. Fire! Boom! Bam! Aerarg! Damn demons! A great beam of fire with edges of energy of light and demonic was fired from the two young people who Incinero as he passed to all the tentacles that were going to impair to Ravel and Calawarner, and then follow his way and collide against the chest of the creature by opening a hole with burned remains of what was once. Gillis de Rice was slightly visible, but he did not seem to care, but only continued shouted with psychopathic anger, and pointed with one of his fingers to both demons with an expression of fury of madness. I finish. Oh no! Murmuró Ravel while ingesting a bottle of Tears of Phoenix, giving the same other to Calawarner, who took it without blinking to ingest it later. Would help for a while, but eventually tired and more with all the power he had given to that attack, although they recovered a little thanks to the Tears of Phoenix. From the remains of the tentacles of the gigant horrors, some many smaller ones arose the same from these remains, forming a great army against them too. Oh, this is bad. We go die. Fuck. What a pathetic form of dying. I swear that this has to be Middle's fault. She and her comments of fatalistic deaths. How bad? No, King? If I mouth you or Calawarner, better stop saying that and prepare that we will begin to fight. Ravel whispered with a tense smile as he expelled a large flare of fire towards a group, while Calawarner used a light shield stopping another group of those horns, but then the gigant horrors sent one of his giant tentacles towards the two demons off before. Tentacle was cut in two by Carlomine, who appreciated, and that fell to his knees in front of Ravel and Calawarner. With a soft smile he threw himself at high speed and short in two to a whole group of horries and also backed away at the same speed, stopping in front of his other two demons. Ravel asked him. Then Carlomine. He achieved it? Oh yes, Ravel. I achieve it. This is my sacred gear? He looks a little foolish. It may seem harmless, but it is a great power combined with yours. Together we are invincible. Believe it, little chick. Port. Don't call me chick, it's denigrating. Then do not call me Juke. Call me for my other name. We are in Japan, and I feel nostalgic to call me for one of my ancient names and more in these beautiful lands. So from now I will call you partner. Harry James Potter. Vale. I'll do as you want. Are you sure this will be enough? We will win, but only if you believe both in yourself and in me. Together we can, and together we will achieve it together. We will be victorious. Are you ready, Harry James Potter? Yes. I'm ready. I'm really. Good your strength, Suzaku. Vermilion bird. It arises, King. Phoenix. That was Harry's shout by using Jutsu as Japanese name, Vermilion bird, who gave his confidence in him to win and will do so. His red brightness body, and then his sacred gear appeared in the case of 3 hard red glass spheres that began to turn around Harry while flying over his other 3 companions. Ravel, seeing the spheres, was confused, just like Calawarner, although Carloman had a serene smile full of pride. Zephyrus? Is that sacred gear to Harry? Is it a joke, right? No, Ravel, it is not. We thought about when we saw her, but her ability is really terrifying, Carloman said with a smile of trust while Harry took one of the sphere with his hand and then seemed to concentrate deeply. So much that the air itself began to heat up, and the horrors even seemed to notice the change in the atmosphere because they threw themselves to Harry. A lot squeezed one of the spheres and cracks in it appeared in it, but then Harry shouted a spell strongly. Fire! Harry shouted with force, and from a tight fist with the sphere came out a great red fire torrent, but this was not normal. It was larger, stronger, and more focused than a usual Harry attack. It was perhaps 10 bigger than Ravel's attack, and even Shaketa herself could compare that attack with one of her brother Riser. No, she even surpassed him. The Sea of Flames. Literally. He had everything I play and followed his way to the gigant horror that was covered with his tentacles, but many became ashes due to the great power of Harry's attack. He left his attack, giving deep respite, showing his tiredness, while the sphere in his hand exploded in glass pieces and disappeared. Calawarner and Ravel observed all that mute from the surprise, since Harry ended with more than 500 of those creatures with a single attack. Carloman, without Plaguesar, decided to clarify the truth of the situation. In spheres are called Gudadama, ball of the search for truth. These spheres are owned by the 4 Chinese symbolic beasts when they were alive and used for many different tasks. Although different for the other 3 beasts, the spheres of Juke or Suzaku have a monstrous ability. Amplify. Harry's natural powers are strong. So if these powers are amplified, it will become a true battle monster. Amplify? Is it like the power to duplicate the power of the celestial dragon? In part, but not the same. After all, sacred gear sometimes acquire characteristics of others and such. It is similar but different. Sacred gear King Phoenix focuses on the amplification of a spell or elementary power in the spheres that act as a means in which he multiplies his power 5 to 10 times. It also serves to absorb any type of energy of both the user, ally, or enemy for different types. In total, the stronger Harry is, his sacred gear will return his attacks even stronger and will be even more dangerous in battle. Bombarda! Harry shouted with force, using another sphere overloaded with magical energy by throwing it as if it were a common ball towards the gigant horror that received the impact for its size and a huge explosion that shook the entire area and made the earth trembled, while the great creature fell into the river even more totally injured. Ravel drops further the Boca in the face of such a meaningless power in front of him. Harry then landed in front of the 3 girls, spitting a little blood, and for the horror of the girls observed how Harry's body was thinned as if he had not eaten for several weeks. Carloman, even with her horror at that, he kept talking. But such power obviously has its side effects, such as a newly used sacred gear can only use 3 spheres, and these are very unstable since they break even when much energy is given. After they are used and destroyed, they cannot be used for several days later, depending on the most important luck and detail, because I think it is obvious, which is the effect that the user suffers in his body in the use of the Gundam physical energy that is used as fuel for the premature use of this sacred gear. Very heavy. Girls, come now. Harry shout while holding a Gudadama between his 2 hands by positioning her in front of his. Ravel and company stopped next to the Raven, and the Phoenix girl quickly took one of her bottles of healing tears that he gave her to drink. Harry, who thanked her with a little smile. The then concentrated his gaze forward, being more specifically of the great creature that sought to massacre all the inhabitants of Hokkaido. At that time he was disoriented, but he must attack with everything at that time, so he began to concentrate all his remaining power in the last Gudadama in his hand. Chikas, listen. I do not have much power, so I need to give part of his in this attack. Please. If we want to win, we must launch this attack. But Harry, your body is... I don't care, Ravel. We have to end this monster before the innocents are injured. Please believe in me. Dash. Okay, and I hope I don't faint. You are my second in command. My most reliable friend and partner. I wait a lot and more than this. Harry. Girls give all their power, it is an order. Yes, Ravel. Forward. Arf. Harry concentrating all her power in her last sphere, being followed by the other three girls. Demonic power with elementary power touches and of light merged into the sphere, overloading it but keeping it stable at the same time. Gilles de Rice seemed to realize from his position in what was happening, so with a madness of madness I invoke more power of his creature, and this same position a large sphere of energy since his deformed front. They loved demons. Duran and Grito. Gilles with madness and his monster shot his attack, creating a beam of light of great power that headed towards the four demons, but these together, putting his hands in the Gudadama, fired his attack that was the same but greater than the attack of the creature, crashing both, creating a great explosion that shook the entire area. The earth broke, trees came out, and a bridge in the far attacks. Ha 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 ha, will die damn demons, and when I win, I will kill all these humans. Soon. God. Soon. We'll bring more sins and spit will spit, ha 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 ha. Calla Warner. What kind of power is that? You can give more. Come on. Calate Chico Majigado. Here is more of my power. Carlamine gives everything. You have the power. Take everything. Yes, Ravel. Harry. I am proud of you. You are strong. You are really special because I know you can get all this power. And give us the victory. Ravel. I say you would achieve it. Because you are the one who will be my hero, who always protects me. Because that is you, Harry. You have the power to protect and always trust that you give us forces to win. We will win. We will surely win. Erarg. Harry's primal force shouted, being followed by the girls, and were surrounded by a tumult of energy, and their ray of power increases so much that I exceed that of the Gigant horrors. I cover all its attack, eliminating it, and continue to collide with the creature, consuming it slowly. Rice's Gilles shouted with pain while consumed by a ray of energy from demonic phoenix flames with power of light. Nu! I can't fail. I can't die without insulting God. If I die, all of you. Then Gilles with his last strength invoked the power of his pre-pass spellbook, invoked a biological bomb that will destroy the entire city as its last show of revenge. And even when he was slowly sustained the biological bomb in his hand, laughingly since his victors did not know what he was doing, but then suddenly, even without being heard by Gilles or by Harry and company, a soft voice but mocking, I speak in the distant of the battle zone. Oh, my luck attacks again. A visit to my hometown, and I have arrived at the right time to be the hero. How badly? Karmatic hope. The voice of a person who saw the battle in the remains of a bridge was whispered, and raising a hand in the air, a wave of white light appeared, and at the same time the bomb that Gilles held was unexpectedly destroyed before the horrified surprise of Gilles, that shouted with fury and agony before it was burned until death put an end to its existence forever. His book was also destroyed by what he would never return to life. Harry and their companions launched all their power in that attack, making them sure that they made their enemies ashes before the Ultima Gudadama was destroyed in a small explosion that commands the four demons to collapse on Earth. They stayed for some good times, taking note that their enemy was finally defeated and that the city was saved. They stayed there, breathing with difficulty before laughing each other. Ah me. First battle and see how it ends. Dash. Ha ha ha, if it will really be crazy to be a demon. Dash. Really? Ha ha ha. Nor had so much madness as a fallen angel. How tired. Psychas, thanks for trusting in me. Thank you. After stopping laughing, Harry said with an affectionate smile, taking some to their companions before the four were unconscious for the overexertion they gave in that battle, which except Hokkaido from the massacre. On the other hand, the author of frustrating the last movement of Gilles appeared among the four demons and released a melodious giggle. Avaya my luck. Now I have to take care of these guys who can really... Sometimes my super skill is a real discomfort. Several days. Harry opened his eyes, surprised, taking note that he was looking at a roof. The roof that belonged to his room in the house in Hockade. I asked why he couldn't move his whole body. The turn to the other side, finding that it was Calawarner who slept too. Oh raise, and if your fate has taught him, it is always the unexpected thing that Carlomine's brown hair running in her eyes. So the girls slept with him. How strange. He would usually have scared, but considered his victory against that monster he felt happy. Oh, with what are we in that? Truth, queen of my sister? Harry paled deeply and looked up, taking note of the appearance of a blond man and blue eyes dressing a fine noble-style suit. He looked at him with malicious mockery, and Harry, before the terror I felt, asked why Ravel was there and why was he having fun at his coast? Then Harry felt a cold in his lower part, and knowing his luck paled even more so, he moved his left hand slowly and touched Ravel's stomach. Yes, she was naked and groaned at her touch. Harry got blue of fear, since she did not do something improper, and more one of Ravel's older brothers present for it. Ravel smiled predatorily, seeing the state of the Raven dash. Oh yes, I have you in my hands, but before all that, tell what happened exactly in this city? And what caused you to be unconscious for 4 days of the row? Who days? Wait, we have unconscious states the 4? Yes, so, when I get here we find them together in this bed and so hugged that we leave it so not to bother him. Oh, if I will give you a great good for touching my dear little sister, in the same way it makes me weird. That, wait, if I and the girls were unconscious this time, and it wasn't you who brought us to our house? So who was it? On the outskirts of Hokkaido. Ma. My luck is really bad. I could not leave my old house because the Phoenix servants walk around. Ma, what bad luck of mine. For favor, stop complaining that way. Is it improper of a queen of the nobility of the heiress of the clan clique to behave in such a relaxed way, you heard? We Sikvera. Don't treat me like that, we were friends? Yes, we are, but I expect a little more decorum on your part. My queen. That was the hard and firm voice coming from a cell phone that was sustained by a young man with a messy white hair, wearing a white shirt with a logo in it, also using a large green jacket that reached her knees in the rear, and wearing tight black pants. He looked with his gray eyes bored even if he talked on the phone. He was not alone, but was accompanied by a butler who directed him towards a limousine that would take him to the house of a nobility partner in another city. I really did not expect this to happen, but it was a luck. No? Perhaps it is. Your report by the members of nobility of Ravel Phoenix is promising. The Queen of Ravel is really interesting. Perhaps you can give a visit to the Phoenix mansion and learn more about that reincarnated demon. Ma. Sikvera so interested in that boy? Your details of his sacred gear are really glorious. Perhaps he could be classified as a new Longinus type. I do not understand why an unimportant girl like Ravel is ingenuity to get such a piece of nowhere. It can be more useful for my nobility, so maybe I must find a way to earn it. In cold, my dear king, you are really a woman. I hope you keep your hopes high, because if you could not form a little problem, is fine. Even causing discord everywhere, if it is done with hope, then there is no problem. You and your talks of hope always brings me headache. In the same way, I hope that when you get to Tokyo you meet Matsu, Satsuki and Luff to train a little and return to our lands in the infernal world. I have been understood. Nagito? Strong, and of course, my dear loves, keep your hope high. Dictate that ignoring is the discomfort of his king. The young Pelablanco ended the call and kept the cell phone in his pocket. Already near the limousine, turned his eyes, seeing his hometown with nostalgia, but noticing the demons that flew in the sky, investigating what really happened in the city. Even with his time in his city, he could not do everything he liked to do in his spare time. What bad luck he had, and more that he had to leave to be with his nobility partner. Luckily he was helpful in the situation and helped those 4 devils at the end of the battle, and even took them home, since I do not take much to find it thanks to his super talent of good luck. He had to leave them together, naked, using a spell, and then leave there and go to their own mansion. With a soft but fun smile, the young man known as Kamita Nagito, user of sacred gear type Longinus Telos Karma, Queen Asikvera Agars, and self-proclaimed super Suertudo student, entered his limousine that departed quickly out of Hokkaido, thus leaving those who accept, knowing that eventually he will see them again. Personally, and considering his bipolar luck in things, and knowing his king Sikvera, things in Varen will be very explosive, will continue, and thus ends the first Chronicle saga of the Phoenix. It reveals itself a lot as the mention of dragons, the power of sacred gear to Harry, the appearance of Kamita Nagito being users of Karma Telos, cameo of the hero fraction, the future meeting of Sikvera and Ravel with their nobleness. The following sagas will be these. The next saga will be a battle to Street Fighter, the next is a battle against vampires, the next is the appearance of the Ray Bird with the appearance of Sikvera. The next is a mad plan of a stupid called Manaka, and the next is the encounter with another vampire and the user of death. The next is a pitched battle in the underworld, and thus we enter the canon. In the same way, if someone has an opinion of the FIC, I would appreciate it if I also comment if someone has one like the harem or an idea of a saga. Then each one is 2 maximum chapters, so in a short time I will reach the fee, so they wait for patient the following chapters. I send them greeting and good luck. Toaneo 07. Harry Potter does not belong to me, just like High School DxD. Harry X Ravel X Harem. The harem is made up of Ravel, Isabella, Carlamine, Shualon, Sikvera Ages, Benia, Valerie Teeps, Kyom Abe, Calawarner and Ika Kiryu. New sacred gears, new characters, new sagas and such will appear, therefore in itself this FIC will not fully enter the canon. A possibility that is added to other girls in the Harry Potter universe such as Tonks, Moon, Bellatrix, Young, Hermione, Fleur or Gabrielle, and some of the descendants the epilogue like the daughters of Fleur and Bill. The series used in this FIC as basis for the OCS are the following: Sekire, Danger Rampa and Tsukiheim/Fate Stay Night, Naceverse. I repeat them and notify them in advance. Only the appearance, personality, more or less altered history, power, and such characters will be used, not the sagas of the series, so this would not be a multi-crossover, such as with Danganronpa. Just and I have only seen some videos and read wiki, so if someone does not know who Nagito Kamita is, well, and there is no need to find out all the series, but it will not be my creation but a basis of a character of another series already made, because I don't believe that Gary Stu bored. I must also clarify that I find out that Ravel had another name without a name, so not to get into mess since in anterior chapter only mention Riser and Ruvel, I will tell that Ravel only has those 2 brothers. Saga 2. Harry Potter and the Fighting Tournament. Harry swears that Ruvel really when I wanted to be very good to bring people a joke when they had materials for it. He did not seem upset that he was naked with his sister, but rather it seemed natural and very fun, although the reason behind it was escaped. Harry shook his head at that. The demons really are not as expected. In total Harry was fine, although a little of the nerves, so many giggles that Ruvel released every time he saw him, as also the nervousness when he thought Ravel's naked body next to his. The truth is that Harry was fascinating Ravel. At one time the Phoenix girl might seem a maid all their culture. When they had gone to buy food in the supermarket in the center of Hokkaido, Ravel was lost and said supermarket 3 times, and it never occurred to ask the workers for the addresses because he did not know he had to do it. Harry was not better. He lived in the time of 1995 bone before the new century, and the current era was 2013. So many things dislodged him: microwaves, cell phones, computers and others that left him confused. He was barely a demon for 2 and had been in the last with the current era, learning of everything. Being a demon he could speak all languages, but writing it and such was something very different, so through a Harry spell hardly learned Japanese, German and Italian. The headaches that had to endure were many. But she has been there in everything. Really? Harry thought with a slight smile, remembering how Ravel at the beginning said soft scolding, while giving him imperceptible pampering after each injury of studies that he had to endure, and how in a way silent he showed his concern, and how he helped him overcome Sirius's death and the lack of his friends. He wasn't used to be a demon, but who, just perhaps, thanks to Ravel he felt a little better with himself. She fascinated him. He was not afraid to admit that he might like it very much, but it was very soon, so Harry was not so accelerated about his thoughts. Of course, seeing Ravel's body naked has disrupted the thing a bit. Fill in my sister? Hey? That? No. How do you think? Fuck, this guy is good. You know, boy, I don't believe you. After all, you saw my dear little sister, and you are a child in her hormonal time, so you still think about my sister? Or are you implying that my sister is ugly? Are you trying to say that, Potter? Ha 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 ha, disturbing this boy is really fun. I mention with false seriousness in his question, Ruvel causing Harry boring, and now or was worth the attempt to get his younger brother from Quicks. Ruvel released a laugh, dissipating Harry's concerns even if he blushed. I should not make fun like that, and not much less if it has to do with your sister, Mr. Ruvel. Ma, Harry, we are almost family, except when we are in meetings, and I hope you call me Ruvel. After all, in this hard world the family is everything is not true. I ask with a Ruvel smile while a maid from his personal home left him a cup of tea for him as one of orange juice for Harry. Both men thanked and took their drinks, while a few homunculo servants moved silently in the kitchen of the house that had been made for Ravel in Hokkaido. For while Harry and Ravel were in the kitchen, the girls were still sleeping in the room recovering from their wounds. It was a basic healing method where healing energy and skin to skin were passed. So whoever they are using this method was usually naked. So Ravel did not surprise themselves to see their sister and their nobility in such a state, although as they were all injured, they could be explained because they were 4 days there. In total, the heir and future leader Phoenix had taken Harry so much because he was the first to recover consciousness as well as who informed him of the situation that occurred in the city. That seemed to think Harry because leaving his glass of juice I speak to Ravel about the subject. That, well, Ravel, huh? I ask, I know that he must have realized what happened here, but you ask you exactly in the city, right Harry? Okay, less bad than you asked. I wanted to talk about that. We will talk about this matter right away. First of all, I want you to tell me with your own facts exactly that it happened here. Ravel asked seriously, and Harry closed his eyes, clearing his feelings before the battle against the serial killer. Only a few days passed and saw many horrible things and was exposed to so much stress. Already calm, began to count the facts without leaving a loop until he ended up leaving thought for a few minutes to Ravel. It is interesting to notice how Ravel obtained his 2 new pieces for his nobility. Remarkable swordsman and a fallen angel of the thing is something very abnormal. In addition that it was on his own will, it could be called luck if it were not for the battle they had. By the way, congratulations on using your sacred gear. My father spoke with pride of it, but I did not expect his true power to really be terrifying. Amplifying the concepts of things really is a power that makes him worthy of a Longinus sacred gear. It is definitely, also having a beast of great power sealed in it, does nothing but confirm my words. Yes, was it difficult to use it, but hey, I was lucky and we won. But, Ravel doesn't think that alleged to call it a Longinus? My power not. This was your first to use it and look what you achieved, Harry. Imagine what you can do, what you can achieve. Your attacks can destroy a city if it is concentrated efficiently, and the power to amplify can be used for anything. No, it is definitely a Longinus and is under the power of the Phoenix House. It is really glorious. Well. Yes, as you say, Ravel. So what happened? How have you get here? I think you understand that the high controls have realized that it has happened. If you fell short, boy, the skies even found out about the situation. Let me recapitulate what happened. One of the subordinates of Ajuka Beelzebub detected the situation but could not send equipment to investigate what happened, so when the monster was defeated and found the remains of a monster's dimensional, and then the angels appeared to the matter, the situation worsened, but since there was no evidence of what happened to first views, then the angels left and we decided to stay so much because the shaped soldiers discovered them, and well, they called me because my parents were busy. So here we are. In summary, you could say that I have a duty to send a written report to Mao Beelzebub explaining that it happened according to the words of Ravel and their nobility. There are still demons watching the city. We did not want another surprise since Mao Lucifer does not want another encounter with the heavens. Much is armed with what happened here. Oh. I'm sorry? Why do you apologize? It was thanks to you and my sister who avoided a tremendous catastrophe. Granted, the threat was an unknown entity, but the demons could have been blamed for this. There is much has the number of sighting of street demons in Japan, so you better not add this to the list. They were exceptional in preventing a big problem, and I have to say that I feel proud of their speed of acting. Thanks, Ravel, really. We only wanted to do the right thing. Well, I'm glad. We are demons. True, in truth, we are selfish, greedy, and a bit malicious people, but how we will define the best of all. There are selfish beings who are very good people at the end of everything. Unfortunately, after they give statements with the envoy of Ajuka Beelzebub, he will have to leave Hokkaido. Wait, what? Because? The reason why the heavens left us alone was with the condition of leaving this city, simply eliminating a possible suspicion that we are planning something. So are things with the features and such suspicions and warnings from one side to another. I do not doubt that in the future a church will be built here or some exorcists will live for a while here to monitor the city. It is simply not normal for a being to be an angel. A fall or a devil is able to seal the situation of any arrival of these 3 forces. So in the end, to avoid problems, it is better to meet the requests of the skies, and it is better that you children go to another place to continue training and that Ravel finds new members for your nobility. Oh, this is bad. We didn't do anything here in Hokkaido, and I wanted to do tourism. It was the first time I was in a place far from England. I guess not everything can. Well, arrangements could be made, and in the future they could be again in Japanese land, even if it is in a sure place what you seems. In addition, they will go to another country, and who knows, maybe it is fun. Thanks to the fact that Ravel has skipped several classes in his school in the infernal world, he will only have 1.5 before he has to go to classes again. Ain't more for leisure than anything else. I still need to study a lot. Yes, mother has told me about that. Oh, and that reminds me, here you have. He said with a joy, the Phoenix man who put Harry on the edge and was not mistake homunculo's servants without a penalty began to clean the disorder, ignoring how Harry looked at the books of great pesos in the ground with an expression full of horror, while Ravel smiled with a pure malice and fun. Harry, with a horror face, looked at the Phoenix man. Are you your revenge? I fall very small, but there are things that one has to do, and one for me is to bother who dared to play my sister. But, you know that it could be worse. Imagine that Riser knew about this, could be furious. You are a demon, of course. A week later. We are in China? Who would say it? I thought we were going to Russia. It seems that I don't know anything about the airplanes and things. Ravel murmured, looking curious from the great window of the airport that left the city of Shanghai in view. Bone that were in China. Initially she did not know very well what country they were going to finish, since her brother Ravel was not very clear in her words when she left you at the airport in Hokkaido. The question that Ravel was asked at that time for herself was, why didn't they use a teleportation spell or something like that to get to China? Simple, the Chinese supernatural fraction, although it had no terrible deal with demons and other species, strictly had the same for them, forbidden to reach the country in an unconventional way. In total it could only be reached by plane. Calawarner, knowing more of these things, I informed that probabilities dictate that this method is for Chinese fraction to follow up supernatural visitors. Ravel? What's happening? How could you confuse Russia's flag with China's? They do not look, and I do not worry much with that. I am a demon, not a lover of the human world. Bone, I cannot be the only one to be in the same situation as me. I say, what demon of pure blood would I know so obsessively of a culture of a country in the human world? In the distance, Rhea sneezes. Carlemine, come on, I didn't know where we were going, so there is no problem. You have been sleeping at random times during these days, Harry. Obviously you would not know well what was happening. Hey, give me a break. I have to read 10 super books in the case of 5 years of high school studies, and the book is enchanting demonic magic that makes it end up touching it. I have to finish it without having a moment of rest. The headaches that I have had put me bad, and the lack of dreams has affected me seriously. Give me a break. There. I'm sorry if I offended you. I swear to my honor as a gentleman who, and giving it with your honor, Carla, calm down with that your movements could make the security bother us. I feel Calawarner. Oh yes, Calawarner, now that I think about how you know so much about these so-called airports. Harry does not know either, and this is Carlemine's first trip. I also knew about it either. I shouldn't have known that. Lighten you a virgin boy, nor that it was made some kind of madness. I am surprised that no one is surprised at the peculiarities we have talked about. Monos on each side of the head, and with braids that fell to the floor of those buns. Their aquamarine eyes smiled gently, although they could see that it was tense. Obviously, they were demons, so it was compressible that it was like this, and they took note as people did not pay attention to him, and Calawarner, having experience and having felt different types of energy in his life, could detect that the deceased was a magical spell by the Chinese girl. She then spoke in an annoying voice. Oh, you do really noise. Thankfully I did a spell of silence and rejection in this area, because otherwise the security guards would be falling on you. Who are you? For your energy I can say that you are a magic and human user to start. I can say that you know that we are demons, but then why are you here? Simple, seeing how they are as screaming. I wanted to know how much they are talking about, but also preventing their screams from escaping normal people. There are general rules on maintaining the hidden supernatural of normal people. Yes, you are right, we apologize for our indiscretions. It is only that we arrive in the country without knowing more or less which we were going. Yes, Ravel must have been clearer, even if it may not pay attention to him. This thing of humans calls airport and airplanes was fascinating. Arrived in China involuntarily? Well, they were lucky to have found me. Not many see demons with eyes. Neutral. Yes, we know we are hated, we already overcome it. But we have not come to cause problems. Yes, I can notice that, as you said, they were lucky that I was the one who bumped with you. Another aware of the supernatural had found them, and immediately things had been very bad. But they have me as an appeasement. Oh, I forget me, my name is Shulan Baihu. It's a pleasure. No, pleasure is ours for providing his help to us who are demons. I present myself. I am the youngest daughter of the proud Phoenix House of the 72 Pillars. Ravel Phoenix. I am at your service. Dash. TSK, okay, I introduce myself, I am Calawarner, Phoenix Ravel Alphil. That's all I will say. My name is Carlamine, Knight of Ravel Phoenix. I promise that I will not use my sword to harm another, but only in case the situation merits it. I swear for my honor.
I'm Harry Potter.
Queen of Ravel Phoenix. A pleasure in meeting her, Miss Baihu. Oh, I can assume that I will not receive any respect for being a queen, that bad luck. Wow, then they are members of nobility and in good position. I also have to add, just by seeing them I can tell you that they are very strong. You would like to have a friendly fight with you, I confess, Llewellyn with a small excited smile. Ravel had a contemplative look, thinking about something. Calawarner looked at Carlamine, annoying how once again her friend made one of her rare oaths, and the aforementioned smiled the same in Llewellyn's desire of a fight. Harry released a sigh because they did not make fun of her position. Llewellyn then repurchased and released a nervous giggle. Hee. It seems that I said something I should not. For nothing. I still have a desire to fight you. It's just more than a week that I am a demon, but I have the desire to have a great honor and great duel. Do you want? Carlamine. Dash. Okay, Calawarner, can I call it Llewellyn? Nah, no problem. Thanks, I just want to have a friendly duel against you. Dash. Go to be demons. I feel that they are a bit reliable. Yes, my blood boils in the thought of having a battle. It seems really destiny. Maybe. Okay. I will tell you something very important. What is it about? It will see, in Beijing there will be a major supernatural fighting tournament in a week. It will be the battles tournament number 50 since it was founded by the god of martial power Guangong. These battles will be tremendous, and there is even the rumor that circulates in the streets that the first famous godson Wukong being accompanied the same by the powerful warrior god Qi Yu to see the tournament. Great, it sounds interesting. No, say it. Unfortunately, with the presences and sponsorships of these gods, only great warriors that are part of the Chinese fraction can compete, and because I am a civilian who learned Taoist magic not long ago, so I am not a recognized fighter, so I will not be able to fight in a great battle. I am really young and really unknown. Oh, I see, it is terrible. In truth, I suppose that I could not compete because I am a swordsman. Ha 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 ha, then we'll definitely participate. I swear by my name, which is Carlamine, I will go fight, and I assure you that I will win. MPH, well, trying. Maybe you are a swordsman. I assure you that you will lose. If not for me, it will be for another fighter. Ha 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 ha, will be exciting. Phone Llewellyn with a big cheerful smile that was copied by Carlamine. Ravel and the others instead remained silent, listening to the conversation, although he sighs funny before the crazy battles that were. Although Ravel had a crazy thought that such a though, since he could prove the strength of his nobility as well as recruiting new fighters. Then Llewellyn noticed the time of a clock placed on a place of the place and alarm meter. Keep my aunt in looking for your lost suitcase, and I have delayed. In the same way, if they will go to the minor tournament, they will have to fill some papers and ask you some questions to let you participate, but when you finish I assure you that I will wait to have our fight. Anyway, see you demons. With that, Llewellyn hurried. He left the 4 demons saying goodbye before seeing each other. That was interesting. No, say it. Ha 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 ha, I feel so excited. Ravel? Us? Definitive, we will participate in this tournament. It will be exciting. We also have something great with this information. I think I already understood why my brother sent us here. You want to say? Oh, I see. It's a good idea. We can find new strong companions in that tournament. In addition, it would be a great proof of our strength. I want my loyal servants to be very strong. Do not forget it. Ugh. Ravel, when you talk like this, I want to pull the cheeks. Wha Calawarner want? Growling, yes, you know how to get me out of boxes. Is it better to leave? But how will we go here? What are you talking about? We are demons, we can speak all languages. But do you know how to read Chinese? No here knows how to read Chinese. Dash. Fuck. Well, we just have to ask. What a chaffa. I don't think it's bad, Ravel. Well, let's go and see if we can get a alms. A silt? What the hell are you talking about, Ravel? That? Do you expect you to take a transport as ordinary people? Well, I say it from now on. This is not normal. For while the 4 demons left the station speaking oddities being followed in the shadows by supernatural Taoist spies that dropped the drop by how subnormal that were the demons that had to have mild surveillance. In the distance already having the lost sook, he made that favor to his aunt, as also that instinct made him approach those demons, establish conversation and say goodbye with good moods. Shulan knew that he logically must have been cautious and careful being close to demons, but without wanting he opened so much to them, spilling as many things that he should not have said as his name or as he was a minor user of magic or his desire to participate in the minor tournament in Beijing, but there was something strong that made him trust in those boys, something great and a rule of being a martial fighting instincts. It was not bad, it was very fun. I felt that Carlamine girl will be a challenge in fighting, and the others, they will still have to be strong. I already wanted to fight them. Besides, that boy. It was really very nice. Shulan blushed deeply when he thought of black hair and jade eyes. When she saw him, felt like her body froze for a moment, and if it weren't because of pure discipline she would have become very nervous being close to that boy named Harry. There was something so powerful, mysterious, and such a demon. He didn't care if he was a queen. He would prove that he was strong, and his soft, calm, and a little shy aptitude made him much more pleasant to the sight for Shulan. There was also something, a feeling that that boy had something for her, something very powerful. He felt a strong emotion in his being. He already wanted the tournament to begin and there to see that group again. She, without knowing, with the others, in the most bottom of the soul and being of Harry Potter. One of the beings who rested in the woke up and then knew that she had found her new bearer, and with a tremendous happiness roar with joy. The white tiger finally found his partner. Some days later, Isabella, a young woman with brown hair orange with red tufts who wore a green motorist suit, looked with people who were in front of him in the case of Japanese 4, a light brown hair young man wearing a gray suit, another chestnut with executive blue glasses, being accompanied by 2 women, one of dark green hair, dressing a blue and white mouth suit, and there was also a woman with brown skin and short black hair dressing the same clothing to the provocative and purple color body. The man with the gray business suit smiled, as if Isabella, who looked at him with all the disgust of the world. Then, Miss Isabella, do we have a deal? You are a damn monster, Higuruzumi. I swear that one day someone will make you pay for everything. You have a great mouth, Miss Isabella. Unfortunately for you, those simple words do not affect me in the least. In the same way you accept my orders, Miss Isabella? Or, maybe, do you want? Good. I'll make it miserable shit. Now go here. Go. I shout with deep anger and hate. Isabella, getting up from her seat, will Victoria to Isabella. Do not forget what we talked. You fail and pay the maximum price. We will contact you when the time. I told you to be miserable. Go once and for a fury without equal being shown by his forbid. It just happened to him and what he had to do now. Isabella's story was complicated. On the one hand, since she had memory, she grew up in an orphanage. Apparently her parents had died in a visit to China, leaving her without any identity proof, and how they knew that she was not born in China and was foreign. Well apart from its appearance and nationality, the explanation appeared much later, as in the 8 years his right eye had suffered such an intense pain that Isabella had lost knowledge, and having been in bed for many weeks, when his eye was better, suffered a change, becoming electric blue color. He believed that nothing would happen with it, but then one day when he had angered by a children be something impossible. All who looked stopped his time. After being thrown out of the orphanage and cursed like a monster, Isabella continued to wander, suffering from her right eye, wondering what happened to her, until she met a woman named Medea and her husband Sutra Kazuki. They did not really give her much, but they lent her help, although it was more curiosity than for charity. She learned from them about the supernatural world and such from his Tokaya Medea de Calcutta, the witch of the betrayal of the era of the gods in Greece already. Thousands years ago, although it was not fully human but it was half-elf. A whole combination in truth, since the woman was a powerful and dangerous sorceress capable of tithing army with her power. Her husband instead was a normal human without anything martials and murder method among other things. Its history was simple. Simply leave the sect and became a school teacher. It sounds crazy, but it was really, he ended up marrying Medea and they have been, in his ways, happy together. Medea, being a powerful magician, discovered the truth of Isabella. She was a legacy. A legacy in Greek mythology are descendants of mystical figures of any mythology, but being called a legacy is something much different from the descendants of the heroes, as in the case of Medea or Cao Cao or Siegfried, you understand. Since a legacy is mortal with divine ancestors that in those cases are grandparents or great-grandparents or even beyond, for example it could be used to Neapolitan, it was a mortal hero who would not recognize it to any glance, that would not recognize it, but the truth of anyone would not recognize it. Being the son of that great hero, it is also referenced that Neptulem is descendants of the Titan Thetis. As such, Isabella was a legacy, but an impressive. She was a legacy of the dark god Balor, king of the Fomorians, known as Baler by Rugser or Baler of the Penetrating Eye among other titles. Not only that, but for being a legacy of that god, Isabella was a legacy of the legendary Luff god, as it was also related to the greatest Irish hero, Cuchulainn. So in a low voice, Isabella is from Ireland, but well, that did not take away the crazy thing about the matter. It would obviously think that it was impossible that Isabella is a Beller legacy, considering that he is dead ago many centuries ago at the hands of his own grandson Luff, but then Luff the same was still alive, for what Isabella was a descendant of a son of Luff in the current era. The greatest madness is as Isabella has inherited the dark eye of the dark eye Byrugdurser, since someone from the Luff line could not possess it, as well as that Baler's power was printing in a sacred gear forbidden Baler view. But hey, considering how fucking it was the world currently, with the God of the Dead Bible and the most original Mao dead for a year old, of course they did not know about it, for what I did not investigate much of that subject. Hey my watchers, welcome. Today we are gonna see, what if Harry Potter was Yandere lover of Ravel? Unfortunately, with a mystical eye with many skills, one of them partially stop a person's time, had his setback. Luffa's blood traveled in Isabella's veins. So Luffa's cursed power of the grandfather of Luff was being rejected at every moment, which caused intense pain and suffering to Isabella, so he had to use a mask that sealed his prohibited eye and thus avoid the pain. Other failures was that it was still powerful body of being a descendant of a god hero. His amount of magical power was much lower than the average, so Medea could not teach him almost anything, but Isabella learned martial arts of Kazuki, becoming a great fighter. Already at the 14 years, Isabella left Medea and her husband to find her path, which eventually took Isabella in her current problem. Ugh, that old Kazuki old man will be disappointed with me for getting into these stupidities. Murmuró Isabella, getting up from his seat to go to a cabinet and take out a headache pills that was later taken, and thought about his situation. Living alone was very difficult, for what he had to do everything to survive. In the end he had to resort to street fights before she entered contact with the supernatural world. She did many jobs such as bodyguard, labor, coach and such, but then it was not enough for her expenses, also that she wanted to buy a motorcycle for herself for what she was doing 2 years ago, which won thanks to its martial arts, its resistance and the conscious use of its by Rugser, although it was hospitalized after it. I won a large sum of money and thus decided to participate in the next tournament, remaining in third place, earning good profits, but then someone seemed to have interest in it. Higa Izumi was a young heir of a company that had many hospitals throughout China and Japan in their control. The truth is that Higa Izumi was a scammer, blackmailer, extortionist, kidnapper, mafia, betting and other things under his deck of an educated young man. The guy knew the supernatural world and decided and everything to make your family's company better in the market and be the best. He did not actually worked, only his second-in-command Kakazaki had hired the worst of the scum of the world and even the fraction shin purposes. Even the loyalty of some members of a Yuki race called Sekirei is earned. Totoyama and Ichiya, the two women who followed Higa, are part of a strange race of all. According to Isabella, listen to the rumors. A crazy Tardu somewhere in Japan created 20 years ago a complete breed using parts of DNA of other female species of Yuki, such as succubes, harpies, sirens, angels, fallen angels, and of the whole thing Sumeria Ishtar, creating the Sekirei race. Mostly feminine humanoid beings with a mentality where they are governed in the union of classmates. They are a species that idolize emotional ties being the main love, with the beauty of sirens and angels as well as the sexuality of the fallen angels, and the succubes are really a remarkable race. With the genetic part of harpies, the Sekirei are able to live in polygamy relationships if their objective the same. The terrible point of this species is that the rhythm of their powers are tremendous. They have so much skills and a control of them that made it more impressive, but their other failure, and even the most notable, is that the Sekirei, by joining their object of affections, absolutely stop importing worldly things and focusing only on their partner. Totoyama and Ichiya are linked to Higa and have killed more than 500 people without regrets simply because their beloved asked for it. Really, the madman who created that species did believe a race in truth that many would kill for possessing. Unfortunately, the fraction Shinto and Chino had already obtained the descendants of those species, giving him asylum, avoiding that friends and other fractions have in their hands. His current problem derives that Higa had almost total control of the minor struggle tournament. His method is that he sends to his Sekirei and other subordinated fighters to compete in the tournament, so would commit a specific combatant and fix the fight so he has won the bets, and even if one of his minions ends fighting against a fighter who is not affiliated with his person simply or bribed or blackmail or threatened him, at the end of everything HIG, which cost a lot of money invested and lost to Higa, in the following year being third, that year it was worse because in an Isabella way made their combatants or the closest ones did not accept Higa's bribes, which caused a disorder in the bets, also that his loyal dirt in Isabella or something similar before they knew about Isabella's lineage with Baler. Maldito Higa, son of a bitch, cursed miserable. Muscullo Isabella with intense fury, leaving unintentionally the glass which was drinking water, and with regret I took a broom and began to clean the disaster, even thinking about its terrible situation. Higa had threatened her with the thing that scared Isabella tremendously. Tell the truth of her eye of the Celtic fraction. She could be the only possessor of the terrible eye that once had a gaoler and that made a goal, so Isabella did not exist so much because it was a difficult power to dominate as causing a lot of pain. Her power was dangerous for her life at the end of everything. If the Celtic fraction knew her existence, would quickly look for her to kill her. She briefly thought that perhaps that is why her parents died, protecting her from the dangers of her birth. It was not an exaggeration to mention that great possibility, since Balor was a hated god and a tyrant. Someone who had a dangerous power like Byrugser was obvious that he had to be killed, also had not to mention the Fraga clan, the clan that was born from the legendary hero knife, who have copies of Luffa's powerful sword, Fragarak. In addition to dominating all the arts of runes and close combat among other secrets, it is said that one of its members turned out to be the descendant and reincarnation of Cuchulainn that has even managed to submit the dangerous spear demonic Gibalg. It is not a group that nobody must get, and Isabella knew it. Higa knew it for what threatened her. She would say nothing while Isabella worked for him, and she knew she had no choice. If I knew where Mrs. Medea was, perhaps. I don't know what to do. He thought of Isabella leaning on the shelf of her kitchen of her apartment, thinking about the things she would have to do. She not only had to fight in Higa, but also cause problems to the other fighters who end up fighting against the sleeve orders, and the thing is that Isabella knew that Higa would not leave her alone. With the threat of exposing her secret as a legacy of Balor, he will always have her under her sight, and knew that she will not be easy to get out. Looming in Isabella's sigh, he looks at the sad and resigned nothingness of his situation. I hope somewhere. Something or someone to help you. Elsewhere. Ring. Ring. Ring.
Der ME?
Oh. That is really very glorious, if, in fact, I have already obtained the girl under my control. No, she does not know what our plans are. Yes, I already verify the information obtained twice. If it is known that Sun Wukong, Guangong and Qi you will be in the area of the supernatural tournament Greater Well, we will act in the middle of the minor tournament. I prepare the implements and I assure the implements and I assure the implements. Fulfill your part. Click. Na any, Sir Higa, the plan will work? Har Totoyama, the woman with brown skin, with sensuality, who was ignored by Higa, more, who only found her eyes with her assistant and right hand. Kakazaki, who nodded and then started a call on his cell phone, to later speaking quietly with someone else. Then I noticed how his secretary looked at him, waiting for an answer. Internally Higa made a grimace of discomfort. Even with being loyal followers, they were very upset with his need for affection and such, but well, the price was less to have two great caliber warriors in his possession. So to avoid so many discomfort, he decided to answer with the truth while smiling maliciously, being copied by the two women. Yes, the plan will definitely take effect. The most dangerous evil dragons will return. Poison Dragon Xiangyo and Catastrophe Dragon Gongong will be here, and nobody can stop them. Nothing. Laughter of pure evil was what he received as a response in his statement. Couple of days later. What do you do here? Ravel is surprised, while her nobility looked with interest, and partly Harry in surprise to see who were in front of him. With the minor struggle tournament, Ravel had decided that they all had to learn. Harry had to do pure physical exercise to take advantage of the characteristics of a queen, since he had skills of a gentleman, Tower and Alphil. Carloman was in charge of helping her with physical training and improving her speed as well as her resistance. She was training that last add Santa energy to a demonic elementation spell or something. Ravel trained in her control of her demonic powers, although she was not going to participate in the tournament, but then unexpected they had the arrival of a visitor who did not expect. Vai, you've been in the human world only a couple of weeks and has already made you ungrateful. Sister Mutter Riser, being accompanied by his queen Eubelon, assumed that he was bad. Ravel was the same, but for Riser it was worse, since he was very proud of his phoenix lineage and the fact that flew in an insurance human invention of the boxes. Riser, brother, I'm really glad to see you, but why have I come here? Questions, sister? I have a few personal reasons, but the main one would be to watch and look for new members for my nobility. And so, I thought you were well with what you had. Maybe you got bored of them? Oh, do not think bad about me, Ravel, is that I had to fight at the rating game last time, and I thought that having more new girls to my nobility will keep my reputation stable. Me was bored, although I hate being in the human world. Pwaj. The air is really disgusting. The plane put you bad, Riser? The girls in Reiser's nobility are very proud of their state as part of Harem de Reiser. Harry did not really understand because it was like that but could already assume that demons had won that other loose nuts because in his opinion Reiser is an idiot. Sirius, being named Furious Grimace and raised his fist in the air stirring him showing how angry he was. If you would have surely killed them. Yes, it was very bad. Luckily we managed to leave without any problem. Meh, humans do only know how to cause problems. So what is sister? Ugh, Reiser, I shouldn't have come. What is there with that? He also did not hope to leave you alone with alone lower-class demons. He needs someone to remind you where you belong to Ravel. Meh, I am in the same way in something else. I have heard that there will be a tournament in a few days. Maybe you participate, what you think of it? Reiser replied smiling arrogantly, while Sirius smiled, pleased in the thought of a tournament, and Eubelin only released a sigh on the situation. Ravel blinked a little taking into account what he just heard while Harry drowned with his own saliva, remembering how strong Reiser, Calawarner and Carlamine looked everywhere in silence without knowing what to say about it until Harry put his hands on his face and groaned slightly. This will be shit. Oh, I had no idea.